Are you getting yourself ready for our show?
Alrighty, guys, Jigs and Bigs for another Tuesday. We got a good one for you this week, guys. A lot of new stuff going on here. Like, new studio shit's happening here. We're prepping for all kinds of shows. We've got tackle prep that's going on. We've got a lot of things happening. Sean actually has some information regarding the online tournament series and also some stuff happening regionally for kayak tournament anglers that you're going to want to know about, especially if you're involved with MAKB. Just all kinds of great stuff lined up today, guys. Later on in the show, I'm going to do a little podcast breakdown, a segment I've wanted to do for a long time about how to get started podcasting and why I think podcasting is such a great platform. What is it about it that I like so much? You can find all that stuff out later. We got Geekin with Galekis in our third and final round, and get ready to laugh, you some bitches, because the category today is stand-up comedy. We're going to share some of our favorite bits from some of our favorite acts, and you're not going to want to miss it, guys. It's kind of like a little react video, actually. It's going to be pretty awesome. You don't want to miss out. Go ahead, grab yourself something tasty to enjoy. I know I am, and we will see you guys in just a bit. Don't go too far. We got much more Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up right after this. Brother. I had to get one of those out already.
Now we got to get one of those for me so I can do it too.
Well, I gotta figure out how we're gonna like lay all this stuff out, because it'll be tough, because, you know, for me to have a button for you, you're gonna need like a visual cue, you know, of when I have to hit it. So it'll be a little bit tricky. It will be a lot easier at stuff like the Springfield Sportsman Show, when we're going to be recording so much stuff live, because I'm bringing this sucker out there. We're going to have ourselves a good one. Before we talk about all the new shit that's been going on, though, around here at Jigs and Bigs HQ, let's get this out of the way, guys. First and foremost, thank you so much, everybody who's listening to the show. Your boy did a little bit of a peek, a little check back in with the analytics of this show, and things are on the up and up. Oh my goodness, look who just popped in here. We got Ellie Noel joining us for along with our Jig Heads in our Jig Head exclusive live stream. And this all kind of ties together, guys, because we want to do some housekeeping up front. We got a few things with Jigs and Bigs that we think that some of you are really going to like. We know that some of you are all about this stuff. First and foremost, we've got our Jigs and Bigs merch. It's available at jigsandbigs.com. We've got t-shirts and hoodies. We've got performance gear. No, we don't have performance gear anymore. We have Bluetooth speakers. We've got all kinds of other cool accessories that you can check out. Plus, so many hats. So many hats for anybody that any style that you want. You want a trucker hat, we got you. If you're like me and you're super pompous and you need a flat brim hat, I got you covered. If you like that lazy, relaxed weekend feel of a dad hat, we got that for you too. And a bunch of shirts. In fact, you can also get some Bobby Roast Beef merch there as well. Some Bobby Roast Beef branded material. It's all in one store. And I have a new shirt coming that utilizes some technology that to come up with a design. And I think I've found the perfect little spin. It's going to be really good. So we've got merch available at jigsandbigs.com. Of course, you can follow us on all of our social media. Follow us on our Facebook page. Been doing a lot more engaging stuff with our Facebook followers over there, and it's been really good. It's been popping off pretty good. But we have a big presence on Instagram. That's primarily where we put a lot of our content right there. Make sure to go and follow us. If you're on Instagram, you want to find out most of the stuff about the show. We often will post links to polls and things like that, so we can kind of get an idea of where everybody's coming from. And one other major thing, we'll be talking about this later. Actually, two things. First off is the Patreon that we work with. That's what we refer to our Patreon following and our close friends of the show. It's the Jig Heads. That's how you become a Jig Head. So you can do this at jigsandbigs.com. It's a $5 a month subscription. It's limited seating, so we only allow so many people in there. Starting to actually get full right now. now, which is kind of nice. And we've got some great folks in there. It gives you exclusive access to the live screen, the recording of this show. It also gives you some extra discounts and first cracks at saving some cash. We have some promo codes that get released exclusively to the jig heads, and we like to kind of put them first anytime that we can. Plus, we've been known to give away some stuff every once in a while, too, which is kind of cool. So go ahead, sign up for that as well. And the third and final thing is, if you like to engage with this show and you find it entertaining, if we entertain you at all, do yourself a favor and jump into our online fishing tournaments. It's a fun little scavenger hunt. Sean's going to have details about that coming up later. We'll go through all that stuff in our little hot topic segment. But we do monthly online tournaments where you can have a whole lot of fun competing with yours truly and other Jigs and Bigs fans from all over the country. And you're not going to want to miss it. It's a blast. It's a whole lot of fun. Everybody's going to have a great time this year. And this year, I think, is really going to blow up, too. I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what our weeks have been up to. Sean, let's start out with yours. What have you been doing this week, fishing or otherwise?
Well, first off, we got to take a step back. Ellie did not pop in. Just judging by her comment, she pooped.
She pooped in. Yeah, she pooped herself. Yeah.
Then she asked a question why I looked like I'm about to be in a UFC fight. I'm actually not, Ellie. I'm back and forth between my chair and standing up because for some reason now my lower back decided it's 89 years old and kicked me around pretty good today. So standing has helped. I'm trying to minimize my sitting today because everything hurts.
Yeah.
And then I got my surgery tomorrow. All the folks that aren't patrons out there, let me put an exclamation mark on Bobby's hard sell there about Patreon. I went ahead and took my arm brace off and showed everyone what my elbow looks like. And if you've ever seen the original Popeye cartoon, minus the forearms, that giant knob is pretty much what my elbow looks like and will be removed as of tomorrow. So I will be a gimp in a sling. So there we go. Let me do that bit of housekeeping first.
Just to go back a little bit to share some of the comments about that I guess display that, do we want to call it a perk? I don't know. But what people saw, Chrissy Fishing went and said, ow, which is probably the most appropriate and reasonable description. Fishing the Sticks jumped in and said, yikes, that's a lump. Yeah, that'll happen. That's what happens. And then Gravy Fishing says, I don't want to see your ass. And to which, I don't know if it was disappointed, but much to his chagrin, it wasn't his ass that we saw.
I'm not falling for his reverse psychology. I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not.
I'm
not losing an arm, Ellie. I'm losing a lump off the arm. I got Ellie asking questions here.
Lump off the arm.
My week. I was sick. It sucked. So I came right out of last week's awesome procedure that happens to 45-year-olds. Got right into a cold. Just, hit the ground running right into a cold, and I'm just feeling better from that, and now my back decided to act up. So I'm just an old fucking man. I'm pissed off. It sucks. We had some basketball. I did make it to basketball. We went 1-1 for the varsity squad. JV almost pulled out a win, which was nice. And then really, the varsity game, man, we got shellacked by an interconference rival who we're doing some serious prep for Tuesday. So while I'm out of commission tomorrow, I may be driven to a game and, on the sideline, hopefully not under the influence of whatever the doctors give
meds.
Me. Yeah. Hopefully we'll find out. So I have to coach a game on Tuesday and then be on the sideline for the varsity, which I'm very kind of lucky. The head coach lets me cook up a lot of shit, and he's really taken my opinions into consideration with a lot of stuff, and I'm kind of happy about that. So I went mad scientist this weekend to practice and said, here's the problem, here's how we're going to solve it. And here's the fun thing. I cooked up the play, I cooked up the offense, I knew what was coming.
Yep.
And then they had this team that we'll be playing that we really need to win this game. They have a center who is really good. Yeah. High scorer, just every aspect of this kid's game was good.
He's like 20.
And I'm sure he is. But I said, well, I'm this guy. And I played defense on it, and I drew up the offense, knew where it was going, and they were beating me with it.
Really?
So I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
So this should be really good.
I'm not as fast as I once was, but when I know where things are going, and I still have to. Obviously I'm not cheating on the play. I still have to play, straight up defense, but I'm pretty efficient with my fat ass old movements. And no, they ate me alive on it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. So that's what you want to see. You don't want to see the kids giving up easy turnovers or any shit like that. No, they beat me on it. So we'll see what happens. And then I had another game on Saturday. One got canceled, and then I had the fourth graders had a game Saturday afternoon. Man, they played their hearts out, but I have a small roster. A lot of them have not been to all the practices, and that hurts when you put them into a tight game and they're just completely lost because they just haven't spent the time practicing.
Yeah. And
then the ones who are there or try and get burned out real quick. I mean, I can't keep 4 kids in the game the whole time.
No.
I mean, it's rough. So we ended up getting beat there. And you know what? I wasn't going to bring this up. I thought about it and I decided to, because just a reminder about reading the rules. So I have 2 separate rule books I have to go on for the fourth graders and for the high schoolers, right?
Yep.
And I buried myself in the high school rule book because that one's all new to me. But there was a tweak made that I didn't notice in the fourth graders rules.
Really?
So in the rule book, all right, it says clearly rule 1- whatever the fuck, pressing is allowed the last minute of a game for the third and fourth graders. When you flip a couple pages and it shows the standings and the divisional setup at the highlighted portion of the standings, which is what I saw, third and fourth grade, no pressing. So the rule book has 2 separate things in it.
Yeah, that's contradiction.
I didn't go digging. So I didn't make an ass out of myself, but I got pressed. And as soon as the ball went out of bounds or whatever, I said to the refs and the other coach, what are you guys doing? We can't press. Well, it's in the rules. And then I said, well, here's the rule book as well. And it doesn't say anything about it. It actually says no pressing. I was overruled by all 3 referees, the other coach, and this is the worst part, my director that was on hand.
Oh, no, really?
I should have read both things and asked before the season started instead of with a minute left in a game and then we lost.
That makes sense.
I was a little pissed off, but I mean, the one part that I saw said no pressing. So it's written in there twice. Sucks. Pissed off.
Yeah.
Whatever. That happens. But it's all right. The fourth graders they're improving, and the ones that are at practice and make it regularly are getting better. And
good.
That's all you can ask for. But,
that's good.
Aside from that, I mean, really sick basketball and more season prep, dude. Just I got that rod in that I ordered. That was nice.
Nice.
Haven't even opened it yet. Put it in my living room. It's decoration for the next week or so, or 2 weeks. Still waiting on setting up my kayak. We're going to figure out a date once my arm heals up, because I'll be doing a lot of work for that.
Yeah.
Down to 3 bells. And I did see that Ken Wood got his NAR all set up. His NAR is ready to go. He was down there taking care of his business this weekend. Ken's name will probably come up a little bit later on in segment 1 here. We got some MAKB news to talk about. As I alluded to last week, we had a live stream that, I mean, it blew up. It was awesome. Yep. We have one hell of a schedule throughout the state this year, and we think everybody's going to be happy with it. I'm just going to cover this show. I'm just going to cover our Western Division. That's obviously near and dear to my heart. And and then I set up the chronic trips and jigs and bigs. Couple rule changes I'm going to let everybody know about with that, just to make my life a lot easier. And we hope obviously to get a lot of people in on that, but we'll talk about that later. Other than that, man, I'm a boring piece of shit. I'm falling apart. Fuck, I may be dead by next week. I have no idea.
I got to tell you, dude, you know how I said I was going to do everything humanly possible to be at the Swift River breaking this little curse that's been going on for a while? I have been just swamped with so much stuff going on. I haven't gotten out to fish in now I think 2 weeks. Which kind of sucks. And with the weather that we got this last weekend, let me tell you guys, if you're in and around, well, you guys that are in and around New England, we have had an unbelievably mild winter this year for the most part. And this last weekend, Friday night into Saturday night, we saw temps as low as I haven't seen since like early 2018. I think we were like -9 when I woke up on Saturday morning, brought the dogs out. And they went out to pee and they were just like dropping little urine crystals out. Like, it was ridiculous how cold it was. It was insane. So there's a lot of water that is we don't have much for even locally. It was really cold. I don't think it was cold for long enough to do a lot of safe ice. A lot of the water that I've gone by and have been keeping an eye on, you'll still see like a patch of open water that's still there. And then, today we're in the mid 40s, and it was in comparison, man, it felt like summer. I even said to my wife today, I was like, what we should do today, just because it's in comparison to, the past couple of days. I said, tonight for dinner, we should just make burgers and hot dogs outside. Like it's fucking July. Just go. And she's like, that's pretty funny. And we were too lazy to go do so. And, we made other plans. But it was a cute idea at like 6:30 in the morning. But, otherwise for me, it's been kind of nuts. So a couple things that I want to talk about that I have had going on here is I'm going to start with the fun stuff first. Your boy didn't mention this on the last episode of Jigs and Bigs because I wanted to get this stuff in hand and be able to like give everybody my 2 cents. So if I'm left with enough time and, especially like traveling and I don't have to drive, oftentimes I will just, enjoy social media. I'll play some stupid little time waster games on my phone or something. And, my wife's a bit of a bully. She is. I'm not too proud to say it. She is. She was maybe I would say hazing me actually about my phone case. She said it was embarrassing how it was all scuffed up and old and just looked terrible. So I wasn't
talking about your phone case.
maybe not.
Your phone case is an embarrassment, fat boy.
It was ridiculous. Terrible. And I'm looking at her and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like,
what? You said it was fine before.
And I ended up, it's no secret that like our phones and these devices are hearing this conversation. I have an unbelievable stream of advertisements now selling me every phone case on the market. Everything for every iPhone 11 that's out there. And a brand name came by that had gotten my attention before. It's called Magback. Have you ever heard of this, Sean? Magback?
I have not. Let's see if that's the brand I have.
So Magback is interesting because this is a really small, lightweight, compact case. It's what is it? Wireless charging compatible, which is kind of cool. I've never charged my phone wirelessly because my previous case was like a tank. It was ridiculous. This thing will charge wirelessly. It's kind of handy to have on hand. But the other thing that's cool is it actually has a magnetic plate built into the back. So like if I go to my truck, I can stick my phone right to my truck while I'm doing something. Awesome. And I can use it on all types of different surfaces. Like I've got it right now sitting on the magnet on my mic stand on my desk, which is actually kind of cool. It's pretty handy. I was like, this thing is pretty sweet. So I order this sucker. It shows up. It's got a couple of other like these magnet mounts of this 3M sticky material on the back, 2 of them, in fact. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on putting those anywhere until I go truck camping. And then I'm like, where would I like to put my phone? Because this would be a great way to just like put my phone up and out of the way when I'm not like rolling over on it or anything like that. I don't have to have like a basket of like hat stuff. Like I use my hat as a basket of all my stuff from my pockets, my Leatherman and my wallet and everything. I can kind of like keep things a little bit more organized. So that's kind of a cool idea. And then do you remember my coffee mug, Sean? The one with all the stickers?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this thing has the original run of Jigs and Big stickers on there. There's a Delirious Angler sticker on there. There's a classic Hookset Hoodlum sticker on there. There's a Chronic Trip sticker on there, like all kinds of stuff. This is the coffee mug I use regularly, and I get really attached to these things. My wife has gotten me as gift other coffee mugs, and I was like, okay, that's cool, but it's not the right fit for my cup holders in my truck or anything. Like, I'm just, that mug, we've just been through it all. I've actually dropped that thing into the water fishing and managed to grab it with my net twice, the same body of water, just because I kicked the thing. I wasn't paying attention. It's ridiculous. We've had some shit, and I refuse to get rid of it. I'm going to retire it. I'm going to put it in my truck camping box as a backup mug for when I'm out doing my truck camping and stuff like that. It'll be a backup. But, being that my phone now knows I'm so easily influenced by these ads. So I ordered the Magback phone case on the train back from New York, and I saw an ad for a Frost Buddy. Are you familiar with a Frost Buddy, Sean?
I'm not. What is that?
So Frost Buddy is interesting. I actually have one of these Yeti can coolers that I think my sister got this for myself and my father for Christmas one year, and it fits a regular standard 12-ounce size can. And you crack open your beverage, and it stays cold for a ridiculous amount of time. It's basically a dual wall can koozie, really, and it's got this gasket that fits over the top with this rubberized material that just goes right up against the can and makes it airtight, and it will keep your drinks unbelievably hot or cold, whatever you have in there, and it's awesome. What makes Frost Buddy unique, and this is just me talking about something that I think is genuinely a great move, and I would love to see a collaboration come with this. But what makes Frost Buddy interesting is Frost Buddy cups are created like this. They're a large, like a tall can, a 16-ounce can size. That's what I have in here is one of these cans. It's Burlington Brewing Company. I know people are going to ask. And it's Creatures of Magic, a New England-style IPA. Your boy's a basic bitch. Deal with it. So they make an insert that goes into this can cooler that has grooves on the bottom to fit slim cans, to fit glass bottles, like beer bottles. It'll also fit, standard 12-ounce cans. But what's really cool, and I mean, these aren't necessarily, I wouldn't say that they're cheap, but in the world of travel mugs, they're ballpark. They're like $35. But considering how good they work, I get it, And the fact that it's universal for so many different size of drinking vessel, awesome. Like, it's $35 well spent, I thought. They make an accessory that's a change-out lid. And what it is, it's like a coffee cup lid. It's got a flip top, and then it's got this little plug in the middle with a silicone stopper that goes in there. And it even comes with like a metal straw. So if you want to keep, iced coffee in there, you can do that. If you want to use a straw, like whatever. It's got that. They're running a deal, and I saw this where it was buy the cup or, buy the Frost Buddy, get the coffee lid for free. I said, I'm in. Oh, wow. Done. I think the coffee lid itself sells for $20. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing it. Let's just get this over with. And part of the thing is I like, they've got a bunch of different colors and patterns and stuff and everything. And I was just, we're just going to go with a basic black. And then I recorded a reel earlier last week. I think it was just Thursday. And I was like, how can I make this thing cooler? I put a couple Jigs and Big stickers on it. Man, I'll tell you what. I am the cock of the walk, they say. You know what I mean? The cock of the walk.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And then the other thing that I bought, and this brings us to literally this show. So some of you guys listening right now, if you've been listening for the last, I would say maybe 3 to 4 months, something like that, you may have heard some weird audio stuff where we've just had it seemed like things were missing. And that's exactly what it was. Like, it wasn't an edit that was made. It wasn't that something went weird and I had to make some kind of a funky cut in the show. It was literally that we had data missing from what we were recording. And I, was working for a little while to try to figure it out. Was it specifically an SD card thing or what was going on? And come to find out, it wasn't. I changed out SD cards. We went for a few episodes with no issues whatsoever. And then it started to kind of present itself again. So while the old Zoom PodTrack P4 that I had been using for like 120 some episodes has definitely lived its life, I'm going to retire it and use it only for remote recording. So it'll be used with a brand new SD card every time. It'll have we'll use it when I'm out doing traveling, and I'm when I go to Tennessee, I'll take that with me. I'm going to record with Paul on that, stuff like that. And I made the executive decision to go and purchase a new console to record with, and it's the Rode Podcaster Pro 2. And this thing is amazing. It is so unbelievably flexible. And there is stuff that I've wanted to do before but have had no ability to. And I'm not even just barely scratching the surface of what's capable. So very, very excited about that. This has been pretty awesome. So I've been working really hard with learning as much about this to be able to put together a quality enough show so that this show goes without any kind of real interruption for you guys. And I think we're off to a good sort of move here. The next thing for me has been, I've been doing a lot of gear prep, and a lot of that gear prep has been in line with my trip to Tennessee. What do I want to bring? Initially, when I was, talking about this whole trip and going with Paul down to, where the hell am I going? Chickamauga. That's right, Chickamauga. We were talking about going to Chick, and I said, I'm just going to bring everything, and I'll figure out what I need. And I've changed my tune a little bit. I think I'm actually going to reach out to Caleb and find out what he thinks I should, bring the majority of, as far as, colors and presentations and things like that, versus fucking around too much. I'm sure I'll find out one way or another, but I'm gonna sit tight. So I've been doing that. I've got to clean some rusty hooks and get things ready, because once spring has sprung, your boy is just going with it. It's Call of the Wild, and I'm going to be out fishing as often as humanly possible. In the kayak, looking 3 times a week this year. I'll be out, bank fishing a whole hell of a lot in between there. And when we get into the online multi-species tournaments, I'm going hard. I'm just using it as an excuse to fish. I don't even care about the leaderboard, anything like that. I'm just using it as not even an excuse to fish, an excuse to fish with our listeners and the folks that grace us with their listens and views and stuff. And I appreciate that. So screw it. We're going to have ourselves a good time. I'm really, really excited about that. Now, the other thing that I've been busy with this week, and this has actually taken the most time, So I made a big change recently in my life. A part of my life for the last 8 years is now gone. And that is one of my trivia venues. One of the venues where I host trivia at, I had, since about 2018, they started to have some changes happen over there with management. And it was, I kind of could see that it was an issue. And then the pandemic hit, and then coming back from the pandemic, those management changes didn't help the situation at all. In fact, what used to be a really great restaurant to go to has kind of turned into a real bad look for me to go to and host trivia at regularly. It really has. It's just not a good thing. So couple weeks back, we had a little incident over there. Nothing crazy, but it was enough for me to realize that 2 things. Number 1, I had the most seniority in the building, which is frightening. Number 2, that nobody was actually the boss. Like, there was nobody, even the ones who were in charge, like nobody was making any decisions for the positive experience for the guests or anything like that. It was just all about avoiding confrontation and just letting things build up. And I made a decision. I said, I got to make a change here. And I'm very, very excited because starting on February the 13th, I will be hosting Trivia Now on Monday nights at the Rumble Seat Bar and Grill in Chicopee. And thank you. Thank you very much. The reason why this is so cool and I'm so psyched about it is, number 1, the Rumble Seat's a great spot. I mean, the owner of the Rumble Seat, Billy, is an awesome businessman. I've worked for him before, and I'll get to this in a second. I've worked for him before. He's great to work for. He believes in having a strong product, and he doesn't bullshit. I mean, it's very good. He had asked me a few months ago if I had some availability, and unfortunately at that time I didn't. And I told him, I said, I'm going to put you on the back burner here, but once something opens up, you'll be the first one that's in line. So he said, okay, sounds good. I reached out to him and I said, hey, look, I'm dropping a venue. I said, you're up if you want it. This is the day. This is the deal. Let me know if you want to go for it. And he took it, which is great. But what's interesting about it is this. The very first, Bobby Roast Beef speed quizzing smartphone trivia event that I ever hosted as a residency regularly was at the Rumble Seat in 2014. Almost 10 years ago, I started. It was Friday nights, and, he was like, yeah, we'll try it out. We'll see how it works. But here's the deal. I want you to DJ until close. I said, okay, that's fine. So I brought in a big system, did everything, and it was great. People had a lot of fun with it. And then he made the call to move me down to the Collegian Court that didn't really have much for entertainment going on at that time. So he was like, maybe a trivia night will be good down there. And it absolutely was. It took about 2 months, but eventually things really kicked off. I think I started there in like August. And by the time we got to like Thanksgiving-ish, Halloween. Actually, even Halloween was huge. So, yeah, sometime in the fall, it had popped off that first year. So things are going really good. So I'm really excited about that. I got 5 great speed quizzing smartphone trivia event residencies going on now in the Valley. And for the first time in a long time, I can confidently say that these are all top-tier establishments that I'm working with. You know, they really deliver on quality, on service, on everything. And they're really focused on the guest having a good experience. So that makes me feel real good. I'm very, very psyched about that. You know, there are a handful of people that are just like, oh, you're leaving that other restaurant? That's no good. And it happens, but you know, it's just one of those things. I just to lay it out to everybody, like my average for like turnout was 3 times what I would normally get at this one restaurant. Like it just didn't look good for me to show up and have it be dead. It also kind of sucked because the beginning of the week was always such a down note, you know? And then I go on wherever I am on Tuesday and it's, you know, it picks right back up and everything's great. So I'm glad. That's awesome. I've been working on a lot of stuff. I'm actually working on some video integration over there, but the building at the Rumble seat is really old, so I'm toying around with wireless shit to try to make it work. Because I want to try to bring like the big game show experience. That's really what I want to do. It's not necessary, but I'm looking to go the distance. It'll be good. You know?
Do you know the history of that building?
So no, not really, because that's like your old neighborhood, isn't it?
Yeah, I walked by that building to and from school every day in the 80s. And so that building was, and actually this business just closed within the past 2 years. That was the original location, to my knowledge, of Mickey's Bike Shop, which started, the original? I believe. Yeah, it started, I believe, during the 80s BMX craze.
Uh-huh.
And it was also home to, God, there was a bar there before. It was a bar next door to Mickey's. Mickey's was the extra room that the Rumble seat now has. You know,
their little banquet facility.
Yeah, a little tiny room. So that was initially. Oh, Ellie's asking if I had Hammer Pants. Ellie, this is predating Hammer Pants. We're talking.
That's 84. Way before. Yeah,
we're talking at least 6 years before Hammer Pants. So that was Mickey's Bike Shop, and then the funny thing was, at some point in the late 80s, they moved across town. Yeah. And a year or 2 after that, my parents moved us right down the hill from Mickey's again. So apparently we've been following Mickey's Bike Shop around.
My first bike came from there.
Yeah. Hey, mine too.
Yep.
That place, that building always had a pizza shop. Because you know how it is. You get pizza ovens in a place. It's almost like they build the building around pizza ovens. You never get them out.
Yep.
So those pizza ovens are there. That's always been a pizza place next door, and then a bar, and then it was Mickey's Bike Shop until, man, I'm trying to remember what bar was in there before the Rumble seat.
I don't remember.
I wasn't 21, so I wasn't going there. But either way, yeah, that's a neighborhood I grew up in there. So there you go, little chickadee trivia there for you.
Ellie, just to put it in comparison, she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was still in a nutsack then."
I like how it's a nutsack, not the one she knows about.
Not like, the nutsack. I was still in the nutsack. Just somebody's. Just
scary. Just some random sack of nuts.
This is going to be dangerous.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So yeah, so I've had a lot going on with all that stuff. You know, it's been kind of a nutty week, really busy. And I also have a couple of different polls going on the Bobby Roast Beef Instagram. I have my Tuesday night establishment wants to do something big for Valentine's Day. So I had asked, you know, the powers that be. I had asked everybody. I said, listen, when it comes to, you know, what you want to do for a bonus round for trivia. On Valentine's Day, what's your thoughts here? And what I came up with was this. I left 4 different categories. Wholesome love theme, right? So more like wholesome, family friendly. Then dirty, right? Or love stinks, for those that have been scorned and are just like, this holiday is bullshit. The Valentine's haters. And then something just gross. And I'll tell you, like, when I say that, like, what I did one year for Valentine's Day is I was like, oh, brand new day for VD. And there was one year where I just did a picture round of STDs. It was vulgar and it was terrible. It was gut-wrenching. But here's what's interesting. The current votes are in. There's one vote for wholesome, and I looked at who it is. They don't play trivia, so that doesn't count. But now it's a three-way tie between all the other three. Luckily, I can kind of mix and match those and make it work. I don't know what we're going to do. Oh, truffle butter popsicles. Come up with something interesting, maybe some Urban Dictionary stuff or something like that. We're gonna have some fun. And then, this just got confirmed too. While I'm mentioning trivia, I had a local concert venue reach out to me. To right here in Hoyle, Gateway City Arts. And within the Gateway City Arts, there are like multiple sort of brands and facades of different businesses. There's like a Hungarian restaurant in there. There's an art gallery. And there's a spot called the Divine Theater. Now, the Divine Theater wanted to do a monthly trivia night. And they reached out and said, hey, we're interested in doing this. Would you be game for it? We want it to be on Thursdays. And I explained to him, I was like, listen, I've been at a spot for, over 7 years now on Thursday night. And they've been really flexible. So I said, based on the time of day that you want to do, maybe we work something out. And they're like, we're thinking 7 p.m. I was like, well, then I have to straight cancel that. That means they're getting one less trivia per month every week. And I go, I know that they are making money when I'm in there. This is in Northampton. I mean, it's my only game in Hampshire County, and it's packed like constantly. It's been so unbelievably good. Well, I had a conversation with management and the owners, and I said, listen, obviously this is up to you guys. It's totally the ball's in your court. You tell me if you're down with it, but this is what I have in mind. So back when I first started doing trivia, I could only get out for like a certain time of night. You know what I mean? It was like my kids were really young. My wife was working nights. I think she worked until like 9 o'clock or something like that, or 8:30. And I would basically start my game, sign in at 9 p.m. My original trivia nights were 9 to 11. And I was still bringing people out that late on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, Thursdays. And I had said to, recently, like, there were some things that had popped up on the schedule that interrupted Thursdays. One of those was my daughter's graduation. Her graduation was on a Thursday night. I had to cancel that night. There was and actually, no, I think I canceled that night, but I think I bumped it to Monday. Because over the summer, I gave myself Mondays off. And then I think I bumped it to Monday, and it worked out great. I mean, we still had a huge crowd. It was awesome. And a few times there's been things that have been going on where I've bumped it, or I'm like, hey, I have a holiday party that's a corporate event that goes until 7 o'clock. Like, do you mind if we start at 8 o'clock? Are we doing 8 to 10 or a 9? And they're like, yeah, sure, that'll work, no problem. So they said they're down for it. They're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We'll do a 9 to 11. I said, I'm going to make it up to you guys. I'm going to offer up a bonus for a college ID. Show me a college ID, you get X amount of points as a bonus for it. So it'll be like a college night, that one night a month. The second thing with it is that this round, I'm going to do a brand new game. I'm not going to do the same, general knowledge and music round. I think I'm going to make it more of a dirty round, a dirty game. The entire thing. Really push the envelope a little bit, get a little bit more colorful with the language, even more than I already do. And I think that'll draw more people that'll come out for the show, sort of, and kind of drive that point home. So very, very glad that that platform and the deck have been so amazing to work with me as far as accommodating the schedule. But now I get to throw in for the tournament, the trivia tournaments that I'm starting. I've got an additional monthly event that people can come out and compete if they want.
Cool.
It's fucking cool. Oh, what else do we have? Do we have anything? Oh, no, this is where we're going to jump into tournament territory right here. Are you ready for this, Sean?
Yeah. Actually, do you want to? It's your call if you want to fire up your new machine and the Dothraki stuff. I mean, I know we're not in segment 2, so it's your call if it's appropriate or not. Either way, it's a hot topic.
It is, but I feel good about it, and I think it should happen.
We got drums. We're at the Dothraki wedding.
We are.
Oh, look, somebody just died. It's not a wedding at a Dothraki land unless somebody's dead. Well, tournament time is nearly upon us. And for those folks that caught the live stream, the MAKB live stream last week, we had our big reveal for all 4 divisions as to what and where and when. And I just want to share with everybody the Western Division. Now, the format for this year is every division has 6 events, April through September.
Yep.
Then the 7th event will be the championship if you make it. That's pretty good. Now, if you're a local angler, you just want to stay local, that's perfect. The AOY, the Angler of the Year, each division will have one.
Yep.
The requirements for that are best 5 scores out of the 6 events, or you can only fish 5 if you want, but at least if you fish 6, you know you're going to get your best 5 scores. And that's where the cutoff is. When we look at the bigger picture around MAKB, we're going to have an overall Angler of the Year, which is going to be a minimum of 7 events. So even if you fish all 6 events in your division, you still have to fish 1 out and the championship. So it's going to be a total of 8. And it's going to be your best score of the 7 trail stops from any division.
Yep.
Plus the championship. So if you want to fish 9 trail stops and give yourself a chance at doing better,
Yeah.
go for it. Pretty sweet deal. So we have our shit set up. There's also going to be 3 catch 'em all brawls, 1 in the spring, 1 in the fall, 1 in the summer.
That's
I
awesome.
don't have the dates. I don't have the dates on me for those. I apologize. But as far as the Western Division goes, April 22nd, we are opening up again at the Oxbow. We are trying to get a Corps of Engineers site, and unfortunately, through some logistical issues, I might have to wait till next year. So I pulled the trigger on the Oxbow and said, we'll just go back there. I try to, you know me, Bobby. I try to fish the 2 years consecutively at a spot, and then we give it a rest.
There you go.
And rotate stuff in and out. May 13th, we're going up to Lake Rohunta in Orange, so that should be fun. June 17th, going up to Shears to Lake Onoda. So that's everything. That's pike, bass, smallmouth, largemouth, and everything.
It's a fun lake to fish. There's a lot going on in there.
Yep. July 22nd. This one I will not rotate, but there's a rule in there now that anybody who fishes this has to fish a different lake than what they fished last year.
Oh, yeah.
The July 22nd, the 57 run. August 26th, we have something special coming up, and this is based a little bit off of how much fun we had with that EKF tournament in Connecticut River last year.
Yep.
August 26th, Connecticut River, but it's going to be the Northfield section and Turner's Falls. So that we have 2 ramps set aside for that. We have the Northfield ramp and we have the Barton's Cove ramp. We're going to go for, I believe it's 40 or 48 on that. It depends on the parking. So that'll be that's one of those tournaments that if a member from another division is looking to squeeze in an out of division score, that's it. And then we're wrapping up our season again this year, September 23rd at Lake Ashmere. So Oxbow, 57 run, and Ashmere are the repeaters this year. And then we're going to give them a rest for next year and just keep rotating stuff through.
That's freaking
awesome. It's almost like 3 in, 3 out every year.
Yeah.
And then the 57 run is staying right where it's at because we just got to rotate through lakes. We got 7 bodies of water there. Now on to the big news. So I made a phone call to you today.
Yeah, you did.
A question that was burning. I really did a little soul searching on this, but I did get up, get the Chronic Trips and the Jigs and Bigs tournaments up. And there's one modification that has to be made to the Chronic Trips ones that's out of my hands, but Fishing Chaos will be contacted this week. They're the powers that be on this. So as we know, every year we're alternating. This year it's April, Chronic Trips. So April, June, August, and October are all Chronic Trips. So that's a mix of fresh and saltwater.
Yep.
Fresh water's Jigs and Bigs. So that's May, July, and September. First thing I did in response to a request we got a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I threw drum, fresh and saltwater drum.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Counting redfish in that category onto Chronic Trips. Now, those of you folks that are going to say, well, we have freshwater drum everywhere. I'm not a genius. And I'm not evaluating whether you caught your drum in fresh or salt water.
Yeah.
So I'm considering drum and redfish kind of like stripers. I don't know where they came from. They can come from fresh or salt. I'm not putting them in Jigs and Bigs. They're in Chronic Trips. You want to fish for stripers and drum and not have them I mean, really, I don't even want them in the NE5 and the jigs and bigs. I won't even touch them because I can't tell where they came from.
Yeah.
So that is up for chronic trips. Second thing, we actually have a small list of sponsors for each tournament this year. Okay. And one of the biggest time consumers that I've had over the years is keeping track of the lengths, the actual inches for the supplementary prizes, the first to 100, first to 200, first to 300.
Oh, yeah.
So I scratched that. I said, nope, we're done. What that has done is we've got our system now, both for jigs and bigs, chronic trips down. You can check out all the breakdowns of where all the fees are going are in the rules. This leaves the prize money. It's just going to get a little bigger, actually, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
'Cause I had planned on coming down a little bit on the, shall we say, shipping and handling fees for us, and which I did. And I was going to take that difference and put it towards the first to 100, first to 200, first to 300. And I sat there looking at it going, do I have to count this again this year? And I do. And I don't want to. So I'm not.
Yeah.
So that extra 15% got slid back into the pool. We've gone down on our shipping and handling fees. Things have gotten a little cheaper, shall we say. And more money going back out to people.
Yep.
So no length prizes, I added drum to chronic trips. And then the other thing that we're doing a little differently is all of the sponsor prizes will be random draws at the end of the tournament. And anyone who finishes in the money is not eligible for those random prizes. We want to get these out to everybody, as many people as we can. So if you've won money in this tournament, you're not getting any prizes. That goes to people who didn't get to finish high. I want this stuff spread out as far and wide as possible, not in the hands of, 5 or 6 people that just, win.
But Sean, what if we're used to winning based on our length alone?
Then you should get into porn.
Okay, fair.
That's all I got. We're looking forward to this. Again, I just streamlined it all. We'll see what happens. Remember to get your catch board, or if you're really gunning for big fish, get one of those fold-out musky boards. Just do me a favor. My information's on there. Send me an email saying, hey, is this okay, before you buy it? Or if you want to buy it, return it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, you could save yourself a step by asking about it first. And I don't want to, say too much, but know this, folks. If you're listening to this show and you're like, God, this sounds really cool, man. But I got to get a board to measure my fish. And yes, you do. Absolutely. And we know how important it is to have great tools to be able to track your progress. If nothing else, even if you're not competitive, I'm not competitive, but I'm always measuring my fish just so I know where I'm at, the quality of fish I'm catching. With that said, we have a little something cooking right now that for those new folks that are looking to get in here, we're trying to put something together so that you can get an approved measuring device and your entry to the tournament all in one. So that way it's a one-stop shop. You boom, and then we send it out to you. So we're working on that for you guys. An official sort of announcement will come, and how it's all going to work. Obviously, before registration opens for these tournaments. But yeah, we're gonna get you taken care of. It'll be good.
Bobby, just for a tip for everybody.
Yep.
I use, knowing that I'm going to be in these multi-species tournaments and knowing that MAKB and EKF require a catch board.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love one of those musky boards, but I'm not carrying 2 measuring devices.
Yeah.
I ponied up a little more, and I got a catch folding 48.
Yeah, that's a nice board.
Yeah,
it's
I haven't had a largemouth. Unfortunately, get anywhere near 24 inches.
Yeah,
and if I need it, if it's over 20, something's over 24 inches, a pickerel, a pike, a carp, unfold it, goes right across the boat.
Yep.
It's good to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's something to keep in mind, but we're aware, and, we're working on it for you guys so that way, if you're getting into this for the right, we want to eliminate that step of oh shit, I just caught all these fish, but this isn't the approved board. We've gone over why it's the approved board versus, everything else. But, yeah, we got you. Don't worry. We got some stuff worked out. Just remember, read the rules no matter what you do. Read the rules.
Don't be like me at basketball. Just don't think you know shit about 4th grade basketball. My God. Been doing this for 9 years. Doesn't even fucking matter.
Just an army of fourth graders chasing you out of town with pitchforks and torches. It's like Frankenstein.
I don't like when the kids play like that, and then it sucks.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense, man.
Bobby, do you have any questions representing the mass listeners here that could be possibly asked about any of this tournament stuff? Did we cover everything? What do you?
Honestly, I think we have it really well covered. I will say this much though. I think that for a lot of folks, they kind of often miss the point of this tournament. This tournament here is really supplement. If you're a competitive angler, this tournament is meant to be supplemental. You know what I mean? Yep. Like you join this tournament and maybe you're, entered into a KBF tournament or one of your local trails, wherever you might be or something like that. I'm talking like this is for kayak anglers. No, that's the thing about the Jigs and Bigs tournament. You can fish from the bank. You can fish from any boat. You can, as long as you're catching fish, that's all that matters. So whatever it is that you're doing, this is a great way for you to either get your foot into it and kind of learn and figure out if you like the competition element. Also, if you are a seasoned competitor, this is a great way to get, hey, I caught this pickerel that does me no good. Well, Jigs and Bigs, it does, or Chronic Trips, it does too. You can enter these in here and then you've got, those catches, they count for something. So it's worth it. Think of this tournament more as a scavenger hunt than anything. That's the really important takeaway.
Over the 3 years we've been doing these tournaments, I don't know how many of these I've won where it's just been bycatch. I haven't gone out doing anything different. It's just bycatch. Big pickerel, pike. On occasion, I'll make sure I go to a water body that has some of these larger predators in it, but I'm still bass fishing.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I have a place where I lucked into last year that there's big walleye or decent walleye swimming around, or at least walleye that'll bite swimming around with smallmouth. So I'll go there and I'll take care of smallmouth, take care of walleye. Done, out of here.
You have some fun with it. And that's really what this is all about. Primarily, it was like, this was kind of an idea for me that I came up with that was totally selfish. Wouldn't it be cool to just be able to fish with the people who actually listen to this show? And while that's not like physically possible all the time to get everybody together in one place and go fishing, this is kind of the next best thing. We do this online and, you can, talk about our catches and, share stories and stuff. And then eventually, I think what I would really like to do is choose like an angler of the month for every one of these tournaments, have them on as a guest. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I can't believe I haven't thought about that earlier. Yeah.
Especially new anglers that are just learning the ropes. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. Like you sort of like that spotlight of you know how like on the local news they used to do like athlete of the week, and it wasn't necessarily always the person who was like the biggest scorer necessarily or the one that carried the team. Maybe it was the most improved. Maybe it was, you know what I mean? You kind of mix it up. You put the spotlight on different anglers at all times. We try to do that with our regular guests anyway, but this would definitely be a way to kind of tie it in directly to the tournament. So I think you guys should jump on. Absolutely.
Nelson has a good question. Well, Nelson wants to know, wait, Bobby, can you read it in Big Jim's voice?
Oh, I can. Okay, so here we go.
Here you go, Nelson.
If I submit a fish, but I'm touching the anal fin, does it still count?
Okay, so I need some more info, Nelson. Does it count as sodomy, or does it count as a submission of a? All right, rub the butt to calm him down, I hear, and then go ahead and get your hand away from that business. I think that's in the rules.
It's one thing we do here at Jigs and Bigs, brother. We rub the butt to calm them down. Yeah.
Fish too, right, Jim?
He's gone. He went to the men's room. I don't know. Something's going on over here. Oh, I love it. It's terrible. I feel like it's my inner Paul is coming out right now. I almost put that sample on. I was toying with it. The little kids, the Nanny Nana Boo Boo one. I almost did it. I was like, no, I can't.
I think we should wrap segment 1 here before we get in trouble. Or
I think so.
Big Jim gets us in trouble.
You're fucking canceled.
I don't want to get canceled. We're gonna take 5, guys. We will be back with more after this. Take 5. You got like a 90-second spot to listen to. We're gonna be back, and when we get back, we're talking about I think this is the second to last of the block of 5 for our. This is it. This is the last group of 5. Yeah. And we're starting with a doozy. We're starting with a doozy here, guys. We're looking back at the Wired to Fish, what they claim are the best bass fishing lures. We're going to be back with Bait of the Week. And then after that, I'm going to chime in a little bit about podcasting. And, I'm one of these guys, I don't like to think that I have a whole lot of experience that anybody can learn from, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can learn a little bit about podcasting. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We will be back in a bit. Don't go too far. We'll see you right after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters, located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut. Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories from Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade you and your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Torres. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day, risk-free trial, lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% with the code JIGSandBIGS10 at checkout. Visit Torrege.com to check out their selection. That's www.torege.com. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks.
Jigs and Bigs, Bait of the Week.
I gotta say, I'm a little sad that this is the last batch of baits of this article. This has been a lot of fun to go through, and I'm 100% into finding even other lists like this and like riffing off of them or something. Or maybe we should put our own together. Maybe
it could be list of the week.
Yeah, maybe we do something like that. That could be pretty interesting. So before we dive into this next batch, there was something that you pointed out about a couple of dates that you wanted to mention. Let's go ahead and make sure we mention those now.
I done fucked up. So when I was talking about the I done forgot, which means I fucked up. The dates for all the tournaments, for all of the Jigs and Bigs and Chronic Trips tournaments. The registration for each one will open up on the 15th of the month prior.
Yeah.
The registration will stay open for about 3 weeks. It will go until the 8th of the current month of the tournament. We're only giving you a week to get in because honestly, it's not fair to whoever enters with 2 weeks left in a tournament. They're not going to, I mean, we've seen somebody do it with 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
That's why I left that week open. But if you jump in halfway through the month, thank you for the donation, but why don't you wait till next month? Okay.
That's the beauty of this tournament is that like we now have a little bit of real world experience in seeing how it goes as far as what we can expect generally for the most part. And this is kind of a good thing. And it helps us make better decisions to ultimately save you guys a little bit in the long run. So that'll be awesome. Yeah. So now it'll open halfway through the previous month, and then it'll last through the first week. You can get into it, but after that, you'll have to register for the next one. So no, I think that works pretty good.
15th through the 8th, $30. The price stays the same. Payouts are going to be a little higher this year than they have in past because again, we're taking a smaller slice of the pie.
Yeah. We're giving back to you. We're upping our standards, so up yours.
Yes. Yes.
So let's dive in here. We got bait number 21 of 25 on this Wired to Fish's best baits, best bass fishing lures article that they put together. And this one, I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised that this even made it on the list because it's so fringe. Like nobody actually throws these. It's called a soft stick bait. It's a Gary Yamamoto Senko. I mean, I'm a little shocked that that it even made the list, but there it is, the Yamamoto Senko. And what can we not? I mean, what is there to say even about the Gary Yamamoto Senko? You know,
Well, pricey.
true.
And I haven't used one in years. I moved over to first I went to Yum Dingers.
Yep.
And then now, you know what I use? Honestly, I think they work just fine. I throw Ned rigs with them more often than not, but I use the Bass Pro Shop Stickos.
Oh, the BPS Stickos are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, personally speaking, I think that if you're buying them in bulk, it's the best bang for the buck. You can do, what is it, 30 for like $11 or something like that? It's unbelievable. Like I bought 2 bags, a bag of black and blue and a bag of green pumpkin of Bass Pro Shop Stickos for $11 each. And I want to say there were a 30 count in there, or it was some ungodly number. It's crazy. And, you know, they work great. You know, I mean, they're a little bit longer. I think the Bass Pro Shops ones come in at 5 3/8 of an inch. So they're almost a half inch longer. But I find that if you're looking to actually minimize what you're throwing, that in between size, it's a little closer to a 6-inch stick bait. Also, it's, you know, can be cut back pretty easily. So that's a great size to kind of just go with, you know. Yamamoto.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Yamamoto kind of brought this stick bait to popularity. And they do have an amazing sort of recipe. And we spoke with who was it that was on that was works with Yamamoto? Was it Noelle? Yeah, it's Noelle Roth, and she's partnered with Yamamoto, and they changed their branding. There was a recent acquisition that had happened, but they swear up and down they're keeping that branding, or that not the branding. They're keeping the recipe of the plastics exactly the same. I'll tell you though, you can find a Yamamoto Senko anywhere. I think you could go to CVS or Walgreens, and if there was a bait section, they're going to have Yamamoto Senkos, you know?
Actually, I mean, I know you're having fun with it, but you know what? You know where I did find them the other day?
Where's that?
Ace Hardware now carries fishing stuff, and they have Senkos.
No shit, really?
Yep.
Ace is the place.
Ace is the place.
But it is. It's true. Like, I mean, I can remember like being out fishing and being like, oh shit, I got to stop by and, you know, I got to grab some grubs, or I got to grab some worms. And like Yamamoto's everywhere. It's like Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all over the place. Just to kind of go over here, like some of what they write, they go around these parts. You call the Yamamoto Senko the stupid bait, because you could be the worst fisherman in the world and throw the Senko up in the sheer vicinity of a bass and manage catching it. The action and do nothing appeal make this top bass catcher from spring to fall all over the country. But its appeal is not just how well it catches bass without having to impart action, but the fact that it catches big bass equally well, especially bedding bass. And I think that's a huge window of popularity. A lot of folks love throwing a stick bait when it comes time to sight fish, you know, and pick fish off of beds. It's an ideal sort of presentation. And let's be honest, it's actually really great for multi-species too, because a lot of different things will hit Senkos. They can be fished a bunch of ways. Rumor has it that Gary wanted to make a sluggo type lure and poured a mold from a cross pen to create a new shape. After some refinement, he figured out that jerking a soft plastic was not the biggest appeal, but rather a wiggling action that happened on the fall. He also pioneered weighting plastics to make them more dense and fall more readily. So, I mean, like, can't go wrong with a stick bait, but that's the OG. You know?
Yep.
It is. It's the OG. And I think Sean, didn't you say one time that the state fish of Massachusetts was the bloated white Senko?
Yep, they're in every body of water.
Yeah,
hundreds of them. Sometimes I laughed. I mean, obviously I pulled it out when I saw it. In Minnesota, I think there was a rain or something one year.
Yeah.
My kayak was out there. I must have had a broken white Senko sitting in my boat. And the rain just dragged it out through a scupper or whatever, because I took the scuppers out.
Oh, yeah.
It went under the dock. Didn't see it. I would have picked it up because I don't leave garbage lying around.
Of course, yeah.
Next year, I go back, and what's sitting there right next to the dock, that 5-inch white Senko was now a 9-inch, 1-inch thick white Senko. It just absorbed water.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, look at that. That's disgusting. I pulled it out of the water, but
yeah,
there's sponges.
I found one of those in my old Ascend kayak. I was just kind of cleaning it out. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Open up the cavity here, make sure there's nothing inside, or, make sure it's bone dry. And I look in there and there's this, I actually thought it was a snake at first. I was, what the hell is that? I was like, oh, it's a giant bloated Senko. Nice. And, it's one of those baits. If you're trying to go out fishing with somebody who's just like not really into it, and they're just, you don't know what to put in their hand, that's a great bait to put in their hand. It really is. They can have some fun with it. You just let it fall, give it a twitch or two. All right, nothing cool. We'll go ahead and try another spot, and it's, you can rig them a million different ways, which is awesome,
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Exactly. Good stuff. Like I said, just real quick, I use those Bass Pro Shops ones. I know there's always the originator and a million imitators, but the Bass Pro Shops ones, the plastic isn't as soft. So that's good and bad. Good because they tend to last longer. Bad because as far as the Senko fall, they wiggle less. But good, again, because I use them mostly on Ned rigs or with weights. So I'm not too worried about that shimmy.
So we got a couple of comments that came in here. First off, actually, I want to jump to this one first from Nelson. He goes, he pulled a 16-inch Senko out of North Central Mass Pond. He has it on video. I 100% believe that to be the case. And then Fish in the Six goes, have you guys used those Fresh Baits beetles? I haven't heard anyone talk about them. I've had big fish luck with them. Really? So I have a pack of those beetles. They look amazing. I've thrown them on wobblehead football jigs, and I think I may have also Texas rigged them. I've mainly kind of used them for sight fishing, like along that idea. The jury for me is still out. I know that their plastics are amazing. Fresh Baits makes a stick bait style bait as well. I forget the name that they use for it, but they make every single plastics brand out there now has a Senko style bait. Every single one.
Yep.
Pick your favorite. They're all. And really, let's be honest, if you like throwing a Senko, there's no one perfect choice, because some days that shimmy from one is going to be perfect, but maybe that temperature changes a little bit, or the wind stops or something, and you need it a little bit slower, or you need it to drop faster, or whatever the situation might be. So, they're all out there for you to fool around with and check out, and it's a great place to start. But yeah.
The Fresh Baits model is the Fresh Worms, and the beetle there looks like, it's definitely a different take. It's got a few more tiny appendages towards the back, but it looks like a combination of a Berkeley Pit Boss and a chunk bait.
Yes, it does.
Definitely some different shapes. I haven't used them yet, so I'll have to talk to somebody we know.
Yep.
Dude, and see what they can do about getting me a pack.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fresh Bait. Oh, Nelson just came out with a lizard. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. In fact, Nelson, you got to mention when I had John and Tony on, I was talking about you. I was like, oh, I know somebody who's going to be excited about that lizard. Around these parts, we call him the Lizard King. And they got quite the kick out of it. They're like, oh, the Lizard King. Nice job.
Yep.
Yeah, they do. They make some great baits, but stick bait is just, it's a must, have a handful on you at all times, because sometimes I caught my bowfin on a stick bait on your recommendation, Sean. I never would have thought throw that sucker.
They do like stick baits.
They do.
Yep.
Freaking nuts.
What's next?
Next one is the square bill crankbait.
Oh,
we can have some conversations about square bills. For me, well, I'm not even going to jump into for me. The one that they mention here is the Fred Young Big O. And they go in the article, hardly anyone talks about square bill crankbaits anymore. I beg to differ personally. He says, okay, that was obviously a joke. It's all you hear about anymore when it comes to shallow cranks. KVD won Bassmaster Classic on one, and several other major tournaments have been won on square bills since. Some folks think that they're just created within the last 10 years, but the credit actually goes to Fred Young when he started hand carving his Big O back in 1967. It's 55 years old. His hand-carved cranks were an immediate success and in great demand for years. He would hand-carve and hand-paint each of the baits at the time. No two baits were identical. And it wasn't until Cotton Cordell took over that the bait was more readily accessible to anglers. However, it was also changed to a plastic at that time versus a balsa bait. The original Big O set the bar for shallow balsa baits. You could walk through cover or deflect off of rocks and hard bottoms like no other bait before it. It was immediately popular with avid anglers. You know, the first largemouth I ever caught on an artificial bait was on a square bill.
No shit.
It was on a square bill. I was throwing it totally on the wrong gear. I was caught a nice little nibbler of a bass. In cold water, shallow, and it was just a huge square bill. It was an Ish Monroe from River to Sea, the Big Papa. Just an absolute tank of a square bill. And I mean, I was hooked at that, but it was the first moving bite I had ever gotten. And I was hooked from that point on. I love square bills.
I use two brands, which I think we've talked about.
Yep.
My square bills have honestly replaced standard crankbaits in my lineup because we don't have a ton of deep water around here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, usually I get down to 10 feet. You know, you might have a lake that's 15 feet deep, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot
That's
of bodies
really
of water
common.
that don't even touch 10. So I don't feel that I need anything deep. So I just run square bills because they do the job of both.
Yeah.
Why not?
And you know, you raise a really good point. Not only is it a question of just the overall depth, but lots of times you might have 15 feet deep, but you might have weeds that come up 6 feet from there. You know, and you don't want to go burying that deep, that bait all the way down. I have found, like, just for me, having a good variety of square bills and a good variety of lipless pretty much has most bases covered as far as crankbaits go. You know, there are some exceptions where it's like having like a 20 or 25 foot deep diver. Onota might be one of those spots actually that's got some really deep holes. But, you know, it's one of those things where like for most anglers and especially bank anglers, square bills are the jam.
Yeah.
100%, you know? Yeah, I have a bunch that I have used in the past. I really like the 6 Sense. Is it the Crush? I think it's the Crush that I use from 6 Sense that I like, mainly just because the colors are out of this world. The patterns are really good and realistic, and I like the rattles a lot. Now, the thing is with square bills is that you can go with silent models of these cranks. You can go with there's a million color options. So, you know, there's variables that you can play with to get a different reaction. You know, a one knocker square bill might be something you want to hang on to when you know that everybody around you that's been throwing moving baits, they've been rattling with like traditional BBs, having that traditional tone. That one knocker rattle could be what gets it done. You know, that single bearing in there. But I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Yep. The two brands I use, both silent and rattling, are the Strike King KVD ones, and I use Academies. They're H2O Express crankbaits. I actually use those primarily. I love those to death, and they're not expensive. So if you don't have an Academy around you, you're gonna have to get them online. But that's what I get. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I love this next one right here. The next one is the spinnerbait. Bait 23 out of 25 is the spinnerbait. The one they list in this article is the Zorro Agitator spinnerbait. The one in the picture that they've got is a white and chartreuse with a nickel and copper blade, Colorado blades actually on these that they're showing. Says this bait wasn't really an agitator, but it did seem to provoke the bass into biting, especially for anglers in the very first Bassmaster Classic, originally called the Agitator. The Stan Sloan Zorro Baits Aggravator is a spinnerbait that wasn't necessarily the first spinnerbait ever made, but it vaulted spinnerbaits into the mainstream when Bobby Murray and Roland Martin used the baits to finish first and second at Ray Scott's inaugural Bassmaster Classic. The longer than seen before arm made the spinnerbait extremely snag-proof, and anglers were able to work the spinnerbaits in and around cover, making a new presentation for bass fishermen that is still extremely effective today. This reaction bite over cover was impactful on anglers from coast to coast. Sure, there were other spinnerbaits out there, but this one had Stan Sloan's name behind it, and he was the angler who won Ray Scott's very first bass fishing tournament. It also then had the first classic victory behind it, and it's still argued to be one of the baits that really started the niche of competitive angling, being an extremely effective marketing mechanism for fishing tackle. Regardless of all that, the bait is still being manufactured and sells extremely well, and most around these parts, Kentucky and Tennessee, would consider the short arm aggravator the choice for nighttime spinnerbait fishing. Which, going by what I described earlier with the blade selection and everything, yup.
Yeah. I forget. We didn't have another spinnerbait, did we? In this list? I don't think we did. Right?
No, this is the first one. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, we've talked about the ones I use, right? I've used in the past. I've been kind of a Strike King man for spinnerbaits. I mean, my whole life, really. I started with those. God, what were the name of them? Strike King, Grass King spinnerbaits, which I think I showed you a picture of one. And you were like, "What the fuck is that?" And it has a gigantic red grass bell right above the second blade, the tail blade. I started with those. Since that time, I mean, really, I've moved on to I've really those striking midnight specials, because they come in such a variety of colors. Unfortunately, you can't get more than 2 colors at Walmart. But if you go online, they have them in white, they have them in chartreuse.
Oh yeah,
you can grab those. I've done well with those, and then the there's another striking KVD model spinnerbait that I use, and then the bottom dwellers. But I really, for whatever reason, I have had really, really, really great success with striking spinnerbaits, and I just stick with them.
I have, I have only in the last 2 years really started to gain any level of real confidence with spinnerbaits. My buddy Paul he's a spinnerbait guy. He'll live and die by it. And what I've noticed for myself, and this is only off of 2 seasons, is that I've noticed that I've done well when the water's been cold, and also when it's been really windy. Those are the 2 things that kind of go. So like in the dead of summer, when we've got a lot of wind, when it's really hot, that wind will generally help me quite a bit. Now I'll be able to get a good bite. I've caught fish in those conditions, but also like that colder water, if it's not so windy, slow rolling a spinnerbait seems to do pretty good. I've caught fish in the spring and the fall, like earlier and late in the season. I have thrown a bunch. I don't even get picky with them. Paul is a big believer of the $1 Walmart spinnerbait. He likes to just pick those up and lets them rip. And usually he's throwing them in a white or a white and chartreuse. I've thrown those. I haven't had any luck on them necessarily, but I have thrown some Klondike Custom Creation spinnerbaits, and I have had unbelievable results with those. I've thrown willow and Colorado leaf blades from Klondike, and I picked up a bunch of new ones that I'm really looking forward to. Some different color combinations and stuff I'm looking to play with. But I also, one of the other ones, and they listed in this list of other spinnerbait reviews that they have, is a Z-Man Sling Blade spinnerbait. I have one that's a 1/2 ounce and one that's a 3/8. They're in both in some type of a bluegill pattern with a little bit of orange in the skirt, and these get hammered. And the wire is just so pliable it doesn't get stick. It just snaps right back to its original form. Like it works really, really well. I have gotten the most bites on these, but it just so happens to be that's what I've got in my box all the time. I've thrown Geekin Zingers. I've thrown Strike King stuff as well, the KVDs, the Lil Money. That's one they have on here, the Strike King Lil Money spinnerbait, as well as I've also thrown a lot of War Eagle. And I think I've probably made the most donations to the Shore Candy Fund with War Eagle. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's just, I think they're great. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pick one of these up. It'll be awesome. Nice. Half-ounce spinnerbait. We'll drag this around. Boom. Oh, shit. And then I think I actually have a Dobbins spinnerbait.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I think this is something that came to me in a mystery tackle box, maybe. I think it's a Dobbins. I remember looking at it. It was a rod company, and I think it might be a Dobbins spinnerbait. And I was like, that's interesting. It's a weird color too. It's white and like a royal blue. Interesting color. Yeah. I was throwing that out of desperation that time that we fished at what was that pond that I went out. You were in the Yak and I was on Andy's boat, and what the hell pond was that? Big Alum. Is that Big Alum?
Yes. Yeah. It was Alum, yep.
It was crazy windy, and I was like, all right, we'll throw this guy. We'll see what happens. At the time, it was the heaviest spinnerbait that I had, and we had some depth, and I was like, okay, cool. Throw this guy down there. We'll see what happens. And again, it was one of those, I'm fairly certain it was one of those baits where I did get a tap on it and was not able to seal the deal.
God damn it, Bobby. Seal the fucking deal already.
That place is tough no matter what, so I wouldn't beat yourself up on that. Keep trying that lure in other places.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. But I do. I've become a fan of throwing spin. You hear that, Paul? You got me. I like spinnerbaits. I'll do it. I'll take it. And I also like that after, with my rig in the truck where the way I store my rods when I'm driving, when I have a couple spinnerbaits going, I like the jingling, it's like a wind chime.
There you go.
You idiot.
All right.
What do we got next?
Next up, the skirted flipping jig. The one they've got listed is the Arky jig. And they're not sure if Bob Carnes, it is. Bob Carnes knew what he had immediate. Hang on, this is weird the way it's written. We're not sure if Bob Carnes knew what he had immediately when he created the Arky jig, but we do know what he had was something incredibly special to bass fishing. Carnes was building baits in Arkansas and was looking for a way to make jigs more weedless and attractive to bass. He thought that if he could make a balanced head for his bucktail jigs and add a brush guard to protect the hook, he could then fish his jig in more spots. He saw a TV show where they were using a jig with a fiber guard. At the time, he was looking to make wire guards for his jigs, but the demand for the fiber guard after that TV show aired forced his hand. He had to figure out a way to make a molded fiber guard into a lead head. All the while he was tweaking the shape of the head to keep it from snagging. It started to look more like a banana head. Then he shortened it, flattened it, and widened it to keep it level and upright, which is what was critical to avoiding snags. Once he got the jig head design and the fiber guard correct, he began tying the first jigs with bucktail, but he saw that the Gilmore Lure Company spinnerbait had some sort of a rubber band hanging at the end of it. He wasn't sure what it was exactly or even how to get a hold of the rubber. He knew underwear had an elastic in it, as did women's girdles. He actually traced the girdle's rubber band back to the rubber company and got them to color some of the rubber for him. The rest, as they say, is history. The lasting effect of some simple necessity has continued for more than 50 years. A skirted snagless jig has arguably won more national tournaments than any other lure. There's a time for them in the 80s. Every tournament of any significance was being won on them. In the early days of the BASS Tour, there was something like 5 tournaments in a row that Carnes jigs and no one that won on Carnes jigs, and no one told anyone. They were all keeping it a secret. Bo Dowden won the Classic in 1980 on a brown and orange Arky jig, and the boom for Carnes snagless jigs was going full steam ahead. The jig was carried in Walmart stores in the early 70s when it was just a regional chain. And after word spread and Walmart grew, access to the Arky jig got to be much easier. Now, just about every jig manufacturer and component shop carries the Arky style head for flipping. It was a lasting innovation that is every bit as good today as it was 50 years ago. I will argue for that 100%. I agree.
Yeah, where do you want to start with jigs?
Yeah, I mean, dude.
I just remember being in Oklahoma and watching my buddy Mike take me to fucking task on throwing a jig. And I remember I had to stick with that one I had. I had a watermelon one.
Yep.
With a watermelon trailer, and I was watching what he was doing. And after his second 6 or 7 pound largemouth, I said, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Teach me.
Yeah.
And he did. He took the time and he taught me. So thanks to Mike for really mentoring me on how to use a jig, because my 2 biggest largemouth of my life came off, actually definitely my biggest 2, maybe a number of my top 10 have come off jigs, but it started with striking jigs out there because they don't have any lead issues. And then I went to lead-free bass jigs, makes one hell of a jig. And then I just get their jig heads and doctor my own shit. So when we made those tackle boxes for jigs for people, the Jigs and Bigs jig kit, they were what I use.
The actual jig
I mean, different colors, obviously, but we gave you guys the secret to my success, and then it's just a matter of tinkering. What trailers do you use? Do you throw a rattle in there, etc.? Learning, you're gonna laugh at this. Learning to fish a jig bridged that gap for me between moving lures, and really throwing
like bottom lures,
throwing weightless Senkos.
Oh, really?
It bridged that gap.
Huh.
I wasn't throwing any weighted plastics before I started using a jig. And then because of my success with that, then I was able to parlay that and say, I can throw weighted plastics. And then it became a matter of weighted plastics with a pegged head. Where I continued to experiment with that was in Oklahoma, where I used, slider worm, extra wide gap worm heads, where they're an extra wide gap with an extended shank to the eyelet, and there's a big piece of lead on there that's shaped like a bullet weight.
Yeah.
So that thing's not going anywhere. And I was able to parlay that into fish.
Yep.
And I mean, really getting into those jigs taught me how to catch big fish, taught me where to look for big fish, taught me how to fish timber. I can't say enough about my experience in Oklahoma, and it all comes down to jigs.
So what's interesting for me is I got to, if I'm going to give credit to where my knowledge of fishing a jig came from, it's Bass Geek, 100% Bass Geek. It's no secret. I subscribe to all these tackle boxes just to acquire different tackle to learn about it. And for the longest time, the Arky style jig just kind of perplexed me, because I was throwing things that looked like something. I was Texas rigging plastics that looked like something in nature, thinking that was really, really super important, all under every single circumstance, not paying attention to water clarity or anything like that. So I was throwing these Texas rigs, and I would take like a 3/8 worm weight, and I would Texas rig. I think at the time, one of the big ones that I would use was a soft plastic from Rage Tail. It was the Space Monkey, and I would Texas rig these things. And the thing is they're so aerodynamic, and there's so little resistance that they sink fast. There's not a lot of resistance going through the water to kind of slow that fall at all. And it's not a huge presentation. So it was watching Bass Geek's channel and his, fishing jigs for noobs, basically. He did this video, and Paul and I will quote this thing all the time, and he'll say, so, you're dragging a jig over the top, and he goes, basically what you're waiting to do is if you get hung up somewhere, he goes, you gotta let it sit and wait until you basically know that there's a bite on. He's like, sometimes you'll move that jig over something, and, it doesn't move. It's a log. We quote that line all the time. But what's interesting is this. I can remember the day that it happened. I had been throwing around Texas rigs, and I had caught a couple of small fish. And I had always heard this about jigs, that you will catch less fish, but the fish that you catch will be of a higher caliber. And this is, I mean, I don't necessarily know that I can say either way that is accurate or it is not, but just that school of thinking got me thinking that, well, maybe we'll give this a shot. And maybe this is something I need to target because, I could catch small fish. I was catching fish off of Senkos and off of Texas rigs and things like that, but I was always looking for a larger bite. And I decided to tie on, I think it was a Booyah 3/8 ounce Arky style jig. And these are the ones that had the rattles in them, like in the skirt. And I had some just generic, I think it might have actually been a chigger crawl as the trailer that I was throwing for it. And I tossed this thing up against this one body of water that I fish at regularly. And I have caught big fish off of this one spot multiple times. And I was fishing over by some hard man-made structure, and I let this jig just fall. And this is where I finally understood that the jig is a mighty lure in two ways. It's awesome to drag it when you've got to drag something on the bottom to get a bite. It is great, but it's even better on the drop. And it gives you, every time you cast it, you have two opportunities to fish that, It wasn't until years later that I understood swimming a jig and all that, and how there's three different ways now that you can use this one bait and get really, really big bites. But it was on that drop, and I saw that it felt like I saw the line move, and when it pulled, it pulled it hit like a freight train. I just leaned back, and this is that story where I caught that one big one, but had to climb over the rail and get it from the dam. And pick it up, and then realized my bag and my phone were on the other side of that rail. So I had to release that fish without any photographic proof. But it was that instance where I was like, yeah, okay, so jigs catch fish. I get it. And it just clicked, where it really wasn't about like this amazing, like natural appearance, because a jig, it looks like hardware, but it mimics enough and tricks them enough and gives a bulky enough of a presentation where it did start to make sense to me that, like, yes, this is why these are going to get bigger bites or can lean toward giving you a bigger bite, because they will have a larger presentation compared to like most of your average Texas rigs. Something along that line, just throwing a plastic.
Yep. I will never not use jigs, man.
Yeah.
I always have jigs tied on, ready to go. Always.
Every body of water they will work in. Every single body of water. And they list a bunch of skirted jig reviews. They've got Freedom Tackle Football Jig, the Nichols Lure Skipper, Jewel Baits Pro Spider Jig, the Strike King Hack Attack Floral Flip Jig, the Z-Man Cross Eyes Flipping Jig. Remember that time in Champlain when I said I was reeling up that a big, heavy 3/4 ounce jig, and I had a pike that was following it back to the boat. We made eye contact. We shared a moment.
Yes.
It was on a Z-Man Cross-Eyes Flipping Jig.
There you go.
It's the only one I've ever owned. I was like, oh, shit. Bill Lowen, there's a Buckeye, Buckeye Balling Out Jig. We got the Strike King Tour Grade Skipping Jig. That's a super popular one. The V&M Flatline Football Jig, the Greenfish, the MPAC Missile Jigs, Mini Flip Jig, the Strike King Structure Jig. That's a popular one. Buckeye Lures Jig, and the Cumberland Pro Caster Jig. There's jigs on jigs on jigs.
That's it.
And I'm with you. And wasn't it like shortly after you started recording the Sean the Fisherman segments on the show with me that we discovered that you had made the suggestion that I look into lead-free bass jigs as a place to get my stock of jig heads? And the same model that you used, without even telling me what it was, I was like, oh, that one looks pretty freaking sweet. And I kind of perfected my own. Like, you and I use totally different colors from one another,
Yep.
I like to go in one direction and you go in another direction, and the companies that we choose for our skirts are totally different, but like that Arky style is so flexible. You can do it all. I love it.
Yes, sir.
This is one that I feel like we've kind of covered this category a number of times on this already, and this is the last one. It's the plastic worm. and it's the cream wiggle worm.
So is that like similar? That's a do nothing worm, right? It's like a Zoom trick worm type thing, or does that have a curly tail?
That's what it looks like to me. It says, I'll read the article here. It says, thanks to Nick and Cosma Cream melting some plastic together in their stove in 1949 and then pouring it into some molds, we have these great soft plastics and other soft baits to fish with for bass. Plastic worm is probably the single most effective lure for catching bass that exists, and all started with a wild idea in a kitchen. The cream wiggle worm started the entire soft plastic subsection of fishing tackle industry, and its impact was immediate. The first packs were 5 worms to a card for $1, and they were sold by mail only. When they showed the product at the Cleveland Sportsman Show in 1951, distributors sold 9,600 packs in just a few days, and the boom for soft plastics had begun. Not only did Nick Cream give us the wiggle worm, but was also one of the first to use the National Field Staff to test his worms and introduce them to other anglers. A successful business venture that still works today in the bait business. The Cream Scoundrel became their best-selling soft plastic for a time. It was originally sold as a pre-rigged worm, and many of us learned to fish a worm as children using that rig. The wiggle worm is no longer available, but the Scoundrel is still very popular, especially when fish are shallow in the spring. The success of Cream soft plastics really elevated fishing tackle and made it a viable business for lots of folks. This one innovation moved fishing tackle forward more than any in our estimation. Man, they don't even give a description. Actually, the picture that they have kind of it does look like a straight tail worm with like a small spade end at the very end of the tail.
Yep, that wiggle worm and the Scoundrel. Those are the ones you can get in 5 packs from. I mean, it used to be Kmart was like the only place you could get them. Yeah, they still have them around some places, and it's that natural earthworm color that really sticks out, and that's what those things are known for, I think. Yeah. But I've had packs of those. I might even still have a pack or two down in the basement. Really? They work. Oh yeah, they work. I've used them a ton.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. And Cream is one of those companies that like they made a name for themselves early as an innovator, and they still get talked about now. Like you can watch a Debo video, and there are folks that'll talk about throwing cream worms, you know?
Yeah. That color, that natural worm color, I don't think anybody makes that. Yeah. So not Zoom, not freaking nobody. Yeah. Not Zoom, not Yamamoto, Striking, nobody makes that color. So you can still find them around. Where did I see some at Walmart the other day? There's a very good chance I saw them at Walmart. I'm not exactly sure where I saw them, but I saw them the other day somewhere. Maybe Dick's, I don't know. I do have some funky cream like craw or creature baits. They're very, very funky looking. Like they have these weird ridges where you can line the hooks so that it'll sit flat between these 2 flaps of plastic. It's just, it's nuts. I've used them before actually on finesse jigs as trailers and as neds, and they're solid. They're a little bit big for a ned, but if you trim them up, you know, they'll definitely do the job. Yeah, think of all the. Like I said, that one color I'll still buy Cream for, but I mean, at this point, if I have an urge to use a worm that's kind of a do nothing worm, I'll go with a trick worm, you know. But yeah, they're right. That cream worm works fine to this day. It's just
gets the job done.
There's a lot of classic lures on this list, so it's good stuff.
And I think that's the thing with this list. Primarily, it was about the originator for each of these categories. They were kind of tipping their hat to. And it's just amazing to see what you can actually do using these these products and seeing the impact that they made with other brands and how some of these things are still just as popular today, you know? When you look at things like grubs and stick baits and things like, especially look at a stick bait, everybody's got a stick bait. You know, you're not a plastic maker if you don't have a stick bait offering to put out there. Yep. So unbelievable, man. This is really good. This is a lot of fun. I don't think we have anything left to go over in this segment here. Bait of the week's going to continue, obviously, as we get through kind of our fishing as the season opens up and we start experimenting with different baits and bring things into the fold. We make discoveries. We're going to talk about them. Also, if you've got a bait that you really enjoy, reach out to us because we would love to, maybe put our 2 cents in on it, but maybe even have you on the show to talk about it. What kind of success that you've had on it, something like that. We'll open that up a little bit and kind of get a little bit more of an engaged sort of experience for the listener there as far as some feedback directly with baits that you've utilized. So we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this sucker up. When we get back, guys, we've got, I'm going to talk a little bit about podcasting and how you can get started and what it is about this odd form of content that I like to make that makes it so unbelievably special and unique and really kind of like pull the curtain off to let you know, like anybody could really do this and just go ahead and try it and do it. And if it's something that you think you would like to do, you absolutely should. I even tell you how to get started if you want. So we're going to take a short break here, come back, and we've got Geekin with Galekis after I'm done flapping my gums. We'll see you guys after this. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Alrighty, guys, it's Bobby Roast Beef. We're changing up all kinds of things with this episode here. This episode of Jigs and Bigs is, this segment actually I'm recording right now is the very first thing that we're recording with that brand new piece of equipment, the Rodecaster Pro 2. So this is kind of interesting. I'm just really kind of using this as an excuse to experiment a little bit, but it all ties together because I've been wanting since I started this show, back in April of 2020, to have a conversation about podcasting from a podcaster. And I guess every time I sort of thought about like, well, what would I say about this? I kind of, and this is something I do often, I just sort of shoot myself down and say like, no, you don't have enough information or experience yet necessarily. And the reality of it is at the end of the day, what you'll get the most out of is listening to different perspectives. Everybody's got something to offer, and if you're somebody who's trying to create or learn something, it's best to ask as many people as you can to sort of then filter things out here and there. That way you don't subscribe too early to just one method of doing something, and you could be missing out on some potential or to get the best performance, of your ability by trying something new. So that's what we're here to talk about. Anyway, what it's all about, podcasting. I'll tell you, in the year 2023, it's amazing to me that we still have people out there that just, they truly don't understand what a podcast even is. And for a lot of people, and this happens all the time, and, my generation and older are probably the worst offenders, but those, they're just like, oh yeah, it's a podcast. I find this with some younger folks too. So basically, let's talk about defining what a podcast is. A podcast, let's actually just go look this up together. By definition, what is a podcast? I'm just going to type into my search bar, what is a podcast? And I'm going to give you guys the top definition right up there. What is it? Well, Podcasting 101, it says no. That's a sales thing. We don't care about that. What's a podcast? Explanation in plain English. Simply put, podcast is an audio program, just like talk radio, but you subscribe to it on your smartphone and listen to it how you want. And there's something that's important that got said there is that it's an audio program. At the core, that's what podcasting is. It's like talk radio. Now, there's lots of folks out there that do video podcasts, and that's fantastic. But doing a video podcast, it's one, and we'll talk about platforms and stuff later. It's one thing to be on multiple platforms, but when it comes to doing a podcast, like at the core, the original way of doing it, it's an audio program, and a show, a conversation, a piece of content, however you want to define it. It's an audio-based platform. And what makes that unique is it's the reason why I prefer only doing audio is that it's, we're in a content-driven world right now, and there's content that's always demanding our attention. And I want you to imagine if you have a task to do, driving a car or washing the dishes or taking the dogs out to do their business or go for a walk or running to the grocery store for an item, that your wife needs you to pick up. Maybe you're out of dog food, so anything, these mundane tasks. It's very difficult to sit down and watch somebody's vlog and watch a video or flip through TikToks and get these things done. What's unique about a podcast is that it is long form generally, but that's even very flexible. There are podcasts that are 5 minutes and less, and then there are podcasts like ours that sometimes will go over 4 hours. And the reason why I like this is podcasting or podcasts are a passive form of content. So you can consume this content while you're doing another activity. And that's what makes it so unique is you can make it a part of your life every day. If you're a commuter, maybe you listen to them on the go. Like I know a lot of listeners that are not even a lot of listeners, but I know a lot of anglers out there, just like a lot of the guests that have reached out to us have talked about listening to fishing podcasts while they're out fishing and taking advantage of that time because they're able to do something and just passively listen to this. You're not trying to dissect every single, detail of a composition like you would if you were listening to music. The fidelity is almost kind of secondary. It's just that you need to be able to be heard is really what the point of it is. So let's get into this next topic. What do you really need to start? Actually, I think I kind of defined it there, why I prefer audio only. It is the passive nature. But let's go back here and talk what's really needed to start. Basically, in order to record a podcast, you basically need a microphone, something to capture your voice. You'll need that microphone to go into some type of a device to record your voice on. Now, that might be your laptop. It might be a computer. You might use a handheld digital recorder. You might have a mixer and use some type of another form of media, some old school stuff like mini disc. I mean, it's basically you need to record your audio, and then you need to take that audio and then be able to edit that and then upload it to a server. We'll get to some of the details here. You need to upload it to a service to basically host your podcast, a place where it's going to live on the internet, that piece of real estate. Once it's there, you'll then use that location as a way to tell all the podcast platforms where they're going. So let's back up a bit. Let's just get to the recording portion. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can record a podcast right on your phone if you wanted to. Most people choose not to do so because of the compromised audio, but there are really sophisticated items that you can use on your phone and record your podcast right there. There are great microphones that you can pick up and utilize to get cleaner audio. I've seen people just take and use the regular audio recorder on their phone and just use their phone as a microphone and hold right up to it and go for it. I recommend using headphones anytime that you can. And I'll get to why headphones are important in just a bit. But you need some type of a device to record your audio. Now, we're using, I like to do all my stuff generally with the audio being recorded on a device real time. So when I first started, I had a 2-channel, it was by Zoom. I think it was called the H4N is what it was. And it was a digital recorder that had a couple of microphones on it. But what I would do is I would use a small mixer that I'd plug my my microphone into, and then also my laptop so that I could take Zoom calls. And this is just, working a mixer to make it all kind of work. And I would take an output of that mixer and go right into the recorder. And I would do my show and record it on an SD card in this recorder. And I would just shut off the mics that were on the recorder themselves. I would use my mic and it worked out great. The very first I think the first probably 20 episodes of Jigs and Bigs were done this way. They were done this way where that's what we utilized. And then from there, we upgraded to a piece of equipment that we've done probably 125, 130 episodes of or so in that ballpark. And that was a piece of machinery that's from the company Zoom. It's called the PodTrack P4. And the PodTrack P4 is great because it eliminates a lot of the additional steps. Remember, I said I had a microphone that went into a mixer that went into my recorder, and I used my computer to operate and do Zoom with on that mixer. There was a lot of different moving parts. This changed things a lot for this show, and it minimized the footprint. What it allowed me to do is to have up to 4 different mics on that. So it basically was my mixer. It was my I/O or input-output device for my computer, and it did that via USB, which is something that is different. I was using the audio outputs of my laptop to connect to my mixer initially. This is really primitive shit. But the Zoom P4 combined a lot of that together. It had the mixer element, the I/O element, and then also the digital recorder, but it included the sound effects, the stuff that you hear me use all the time, stuff like that, Now, that device was amazing and it was great. It started to get a little bit flaky toward episode 135 or something around that line. Things just started to kind of, we would have bits of data that would just disappear. They just weren't there. So we had to upgrade a little bit. And I decided if we were going to do this, we were going to go for it pretty significantly. And I wanted to stay on the same platform. I wanted to have a device that I could record the podcast on, regardless if my computer was connected to it or not. And that's what I'm doing right now. I am using the Rodecaster Pro 2, which has a lot of the similar features that the P4 had, but a whole lot more on top of it. So that's how I like to record my shows, is on a device like that. But if you wanted to 86 everything and start out, the easiest way that you could do it is to get yourself a USB microphone, plug it directly into your computer, and then use a free software, something like Audacity. That's what I use to edit my show. I use a free program called Audacity, and it has all of the features that I need to use in order to put together a show and make it work. There's a little bit of a learning curve with it, but it's really pretty easy if you just want to fool around with it. And we'll get to editing in just a bit, but it makes editing pretty simple. So, as far as, my recommendations for gear, I like to record, I have my preferences. Yours may differ, but if you're just getting started, I recommend just a simple USB microphone. You don't have to go and get crazy expensive mics either. The microphones that I use to record my show are notoriously cheap mics. And in fact, I would honestly recommend, if you wanted to record a great show and, maybe your environment to record in isn't the best, don't look at a condenser microphone. Take a look at what they call a dynamic microphone and use that to record. It'll give you a good enough tone for some, your voice to sound pleasant, but also it's not going to be overly sensitive where you're going to get all the noise of the room or the little intricacies here and there. And I know, some people will say, "Oh, I heard the dog walking over you or something, while I was, a floor above while I was recording." Yeah, sometimes that happens, but you know what? It doesn't, in the long term, or in the big scope of things, it doesn't really interrupt an episode. So I would say if you've got kind of an environment where you can't necessarily control the sound, you can't go to some place that's super quiet or anything, keep in mind, we're not recording, albums that are, destined for a Grammy or anything like that. What we're doing is literally talking shit on the internet. That's what we're doing. So don't worry too much about, the gear that you're using or having it be good enough or anything like that. You can start absolutely small and just, you use your ears to monitor and to make sure that you sound right. So that's as far as absolute intro for equipment, along with a microphone is, like I just said, headphones. Get yourself a decent pair of over-the-ear headphones that you can plug in. Don't use Bluetooth or anything. Trust me, Bluetooth, There's too much. It's such a great technology, but it's just not really there yet. If you can plug it in, it's a win. That's what I say. Now, I want to talk about editing. Okay, so there is two schools of thought when it comes to editing. First and foremost, you have the one school of thought where, okay, great, I can take and record anything that I want and then just edit things down. Well, what's interesting about podcasts is that I find that the best shows are, the ones that are more conversational, where you get the timing of the way that the individual was actually speaking. So for me, I like to, especially in our interview segments, I like to leave everything as raw as it can be. My saying, the way I like to apply editing, the way I do my show, is I only edit when I have to. And that doesn't mean that somebody like blows up, the spot and like starts swearing like crazy or anything. But I'm talking about, I'll edit stuff that I have to, like maybe I'm on a Zoom call and the call drops and I have to reconnect. I'll edit that stuff. If I have a guest on and maybe they're just not a comfortable speaker, when they're being interviewed, it's awkward. I mean, let's be honest. If you're interviewing somebody and they don't do it often, it can be kind of awkward. Some people also like just on the phone, they're just a little bit awkward. So maybe there's some pauses there that are a little bit awkward where they kind of caught you as the host and you're just like, okay, all right, I guess we're done. Let's move to the next question. Something like that. That is something where I will edit that out to kind of like just keep the flow and the timing a little bit more tight. But for me, that's basically it. I generally will leave most everything there. Now, that is not the way I started podcasting. If you go back to Jigs and Bigs and you listen to the first 5 episodes, I edited the hell out of them. They were tight all the way through. I took out every every breath, everything that I had in there, I took it all out. And if I left it in, it was because there was something going on and I had to leave it in there. So now, I've kind of like, I guess you could say I've sort of matured a little bit and changed and adapted to the fact that, I think that for this style of content, I think that leaving it a little bit more natural is actually a really good thing. But you make the call. If it's good for you, then make it work. If it is something that you want to keep super duper tight, because that's the beauty of it. This is your show. It's your voice. It's your topics and everything else. And this doesn't just apply to fishing podcasts. This applies to any kind of a topic whatsoever. If you're doing, your best to create some content for your audience, you're just looking to create a community. Maybe you're doing a podcast for business reasons. Maybe you're just doing it because it's a topic that you're super passionate about and you want to contribute something to that community. This is a great way to go ahead and do it. And it's your production. It's your creation. So have fun with it and just have a good time. As far as how to get on platforms, a lot of people, this stuff is what really kind of mystifies everybody. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that you're going to need to do for your podcast is create and use a host service. Now, some of these are free. Some of these have restrictions. They'll have free accounts to a certain amount. Some of them are just subscription only, and there's a bunch of them. We at Jigs and Bigs use Anchor. And I started using Anchor basically just because it was super streamlined and super easy, made life super, super simple. Now, what I've done is I've just stuck with it. There's a bunch of other ones in there. There was one for a while that was really popular called Sounder. They're sort of disappearing now, or in the process of that. There's another one that I've used in the past that is a subscription only, and it's called Libsyn. And if you're one of these people that's really into the analytics of your show and digesting everything and like picking apart all these details, and this will give you the most control over your content as well. Now, the thing is with Libsyn, at least the last time I used it, things may have changed. You had to place yourself on all the podcast platforms. So you upload your MP3 file to a podcast host. Your host is holding that, creating essentially a site where your podcast lives. And it basically is assigned an address for an RSS feed. Now, it's this address that tells all of these platforms what your most current episode is, what your back catalog looks like, everything. Here's the deal. I've chosen Anchor because of two elements. First, it was absolutely free. And two, they were really helpful early on in getting your your show on every other platform. They do a great job. Now, one of the reasons why I like Anchor so much is that it's owned by Spotify, and it's an immediate transition. As soon as your podcast is live, not only is it able to be listened to and checked out on Anchor, but it's also like within an hour, it's on Spotify. It's up there and ready to go. Getting connected for some of the big ones like Apple Podcasts and Google, it's pretty simple. Anchor provides some tools for that, but if you go to Google and you just put in this search, get my podcast on Google Podcast, get my podcast on Amazon, get my podcast on iHeartMedia, whatever the platform is that you're looking for. Most of these services have a site and a program where you just submit the information for your podcast, copy that RSS feed or paste that RSS feed in there, and within 24 to 48 hours, your show is up and ready to go. So it takes a little bit of filling out some forms, but that's it. It's so easy. And just by searching a string, if you find a platform that you initially want to get on, but something like Anchor isn't getting you on there fast enough or something, you can go and do it yourself. So that's really, really helpful. But I mean, Google is your friend there as far as learning all these things. Lots of people I find are creatures of habit and they listen to podcasts. I'm an Apple user. I use Apple products. I have an Apple MacBook. I have an Apple iPhone. I actually prefer to listen to my podcast on Spotify. I don't know why. It's just because that's where I started and because that's where I listen to a lot of music as well. So for me, that's what it is. I just kind of leave it there. But I'm weird. And I know that. And I know that there are other folks that like their specific platform. So that brings me sort of to the next element here is like, it's not about picking one or two. It's that if you're going to be a podcaster, you need to try your best to be everywhere because you probably have some people that listen on something like Pocket Casts or on Slacker that might really love your content and they just prefer to use those services. So it doesn't cost you anything to put your show on these services, but it definitely helps you get heard on every platform if there's little pockets of people here and there that maybe would love to hear you but just never would because your show's not on the platform they choose to use. I know it sounds like a ton of work, but really it's not. Just, as you go, just update these here and there. As you find out about different podcast platforms, submit your show so that you can be heard on that platform. Then you get to build your audience more and more and more. So being everywhere is huge. If there is one thing that I could share with everybody regarding podcasts that I think is critical is consistency is everything. And the way that consistency matters is it's a direct correlation of your growth. So what I would recommend is, this is something that I did not do because we were in a global pandemic and I had plenty of time to work on the show. But I would recommend to anybody, record your first episode, let it be what it is, and shelve it. Keep it on your desktop in a folder. Leave it there, then record your second, your third, your fourth, record up to 6 to a dozen. And then what I would do is start uploading them after you've got a bunch of them lined up, one after the other. Now, if your show is something where it's really time sensitive, maybe you're talking about like news stuff. Well, in that sense, that's going to change things. You make sure that you're putting these up as close to when you record them as possible so that way it makes more sense. If you were, creating a podcast, and this is where it is different than talk radio. If you were creating a podcast and the one thing you can do with a podcast that you can't do with some traditional radio platform, or actually even more contemporary like satellite, the one thing that you can't do there is create a catalog of content. So with a podcast, maybe Sean and I will, for example, go on we'll dedicate a year to going out and learning all about walleye fishing. We're going to learn all about walleye fishing. We're going to travel around the country. We're going to meet with folks. And that could be a series. It could be Jigs and Bigs, the boys go walleye, something like that, where, each episode there is, maybe a special segment that runs in there. And somebody is going to want to go back and listen to these things. So think about it like that. As you release a podcast, sort of the phenomenon is that folks are always discovering you from various points, and having all of your content available for them to check out is a good thing, because you will see that your early episodes will still periodically get some new listens, some new ears. Maybe somebody discovered your show and loved it and said, I'm going to start at the beginning. Which, for those listeners of our show that go and do this for Jigs and Bigs, I that's amazing. You're fantastic for doing so. But that's kind of what I want to get at here, is that consistency matters. You want to have your episodes out on a very routine basis. Now, maybe you don't want to dedicate any crazy time to it and you can't do a weekly show. That's fine. Maybe do a 2-week, window, or you do a show every month. Whatever works for you is fine, but just stick to that, because your audience and your best audience, the one that's closest to you, your real fans and supporters, the ones that really, really love your show, they're going to grow accustomed to the way you put your shows out. But staying consistent means that if somebody picks up on your show, then they know that, like, oh, I would expect that the next one will be on this date, or the next one is going to be here, or there's going to be one next week, because it seems there's one every week. This is what I'm talking about. That consistency really, really matters. Next up, I want to talk about analytics, because this is something that is a lot for different people. There's a lot of opinions. There are some folks, and I was one where I was tied to my analytics every single day. I just wanted to know. I was like, are we getting listens? Are people paying attention? Are we on a new platform? Like, these are just things that I wanted to know. And a word of caution is this: it can be a little bit. It can be a little extreme, to be perfectly honest, to be that into your analytics. It can really interrupt your life. It's best, I find, to be aware of what's going on with your show, but don't be so aware that you're, taking away from your life or paying attention to these other numbers. If you're being consistent and you're promoting your show and you're using social media and you're, whatever the practice is, maybe you're going on other podcasts and you're talking about your show and you're having other guests on and you're whatever, all of these things are parts of a puzzle, and you have to do bits of them to kind of work out. What's great about this is that, those things alone are what are going to get you listens and cause your show to get growth, actual real traction. Paying attention to your analytics and trying to whittle down just the best is more fine tuning than anything else. So I just generally say take your analytics with a grain of salt. Maybe check in every 3 or 4 weeks after you've put some, if you're doing a weekly show, checking in every 3 or 4 weeks is a great thing, because then you get to see a little bit more of the, you don't get hung up on the dips here and there. You get to see a little bit more of the big picture. And that's the other thing. Look at the big picture. Always look at your graphs and always look at your charts and look at the big picture, just to give yourself a reminder of where you started and then where you ended up. And one thing I want to mention regarding, following and growth and everything is that what's important is that you start. If you want to do this and try this, you got to just do it. The first time you hear your voice back recorded, you're going to hate it. I promise you're going to hate it. It's the most awkward thing to hear your own voice coming back in real time. I promise you, it gets easier and easier to kind of tolerate and just get used to. I definitely recommend record your first show, and no matter how it comes out, if you don't love it, that's fine. Don't ditch that show. Record the next one, and then record the next one, because the progress that you'll make show to show is going to improve much more drastically than you're aware of, but you won't ever know it unless you're just doing it. So let your first show suck, because the 50th is going to be totally different, and you will evolve so much more as a content creator and as a podcaster. So don't worry about, oh, my voice sounds like this, or I hate the way I say this thing. You can work on those things if you want, but let them be what they are, and don't be so hard on yourself when it comes to it. Final thought is this: I just want you guys to keep this in mind that, again, this is your production. If you want to create a podcast that's a true crime podcast, you want to go and do reviews of various gas stations in the Midwest. Maybe you want to go ahead and, start a whatever your passion is in life. If you're like, yeah, I think maybe podcasting is the way to do it. I'll create an audio program that people can listen to, and this will be my contribution to that community or that group, that audience, that niche. Whatever it is, go ahead and start. And above all, remember to be as creative as you can. This is your production. You own it. This is your brand. You're putting your seal of approval on it, okay? There's no real right way to do this. Be yourself and go for it. Be as authentic as you can. That is also it's actually probably even more important, just being authentic, because I say it all the time that people are idiots, and that people are really, really dumber than we give ourselves credit for. But there is one way where we're really, really intelligent, and we're really bright at picking up what's authentic and what's phony. And if you be yourself and you're true to your authentic self and organic with what you're doing, you cannot miss. You can't miss. So take that for what it is, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out and checking out this segment. I wanted to kind of do it for a while just to talk about podcasting. If you have any questions, if you're listening to this show and you're curious about starting your own show, maybe I didn't cover something as deep as you would like, or you want my opinion on something, feel free to reach out either on Instagram via DM, or you can email the show jigsandbigs413@gmail.com. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you in just a second with Geekin with Galekas.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
That'll probably be the last time you guys hear that open in its entirety right there. But it is 30 seconds of beautiful goodliness, and it just needs to happen.
You're a Geekin.
I was like, man, I wonder what I could do with this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I think we're going to have some fun with it. Welcome.
You hear that time, Bill?
I heard some sort of screeching at the end, so I can only imagine what it's going to sound like for real.
Oh, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really good.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's what happens. It's what happens when we kind of get into this. So guys, you're in luck. I made this. Did I suggest this in one of our last Geekin with Galekas segments where I said, yeah, I said, I think stand-up comedy would be a fun one. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think this is going to be really good. How do you guys want to do this? Is there anything that you have any ideas? I kind of think maybe we should do it as just like a live react, We'll go ahead and we'll just...
You got the list?
Yeah,
you got the list and the clips, right?
Yeah, I got them all queued up and ready to go. We have 8 clips from different comedians that we had put together. I tried so hard to find 3. I really did. I'm glad I didn't come up with the other one, because it wouldn't have fit so neatly on one. So we have 8 different comedians here. You guys picked some great stuff that I was actually wrestling with already, and it's really good. So why don't we just dive in? I'll set the stage.
Sounds good.
So a couple weeks ago, we had recorded the last Geekin with Galekas segment, and we had gone back and forth and had just basically sent clips of different comics to each other on YouTube. Now, there's a couple of them that were pretty long. Like some were like 40 minutes to an hour long. And Bill, with yours, I cut them out to like the way you had specified. All the other ones are all like raw. They're about anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I think, at the longest. We'll go through this. You guys go ahead and get ready to laugh. I think we're going to have a good one. We're going to start with one of the greatest comedians of our lifetime, I think, overall. Somebody who really brought the art of stand-up comedy into everybody's like this is if you're not making these jokes in the workplace to like fit in and make friends, what are you even doing? It's the one and only Eddie Murphy.
Almost every year. Ever have a heavy-set aunt fall down the steps? Make a whole lot of fucking noise. It's scary too, because they be calling Jesus on the way down. And aunts don't like to fall straight down the steps like a kid. They be trying to break the fall and hold it and stop the shit. And that just make the fall take a half hour then. Real loud, you're like, Lord Jesus Christ, help me, Lord, please, Jesus, please. Jesus, God, help me, Lord. Jesus, help me. I'm falling down the steps. Oh, Lord, Jesus Christ, please. My shoe. Oh, Lord, Jesus Christ, help me. I'm halfway down now. Help me, Lord. Lillian. What is all that fucking noise? Lillian, the bitch is falling down the steps again. Lillian, what's wrong, Bunny? I fell down the steps. Bunny fell down the steps. Bunny fell down the steps. Eddie, go get your Aunt Bunny something cool for her head. What happened? Bunny fell down the steps.
So good. So
good. I will laugh as hard at that every time I hear it as I did the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, that came up in my head just because I was out with some MAKB guys having a beer, and a woman at the bar stumbled getting out of her stool or whatever, and just it took a half an hour for her to actually hit the floor, and it just popped right to mind. It was, I mean, she was fine, thankfully. It was, but it was just right down the wall. Thud. Oh my god,
it's amazing.
Just slow motion. It was beautiful though.
I love it. That whole album, that whole Delirious album, I can remember listening to it on the bus, like as like I think I discovered that tape in like 8th grade, and highly inappropriate for a young kid, but I can remember listening to that in between, you know, gangster rap and heavy metal. Just like, oh yeah, this is great, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was hilarious. Like, and if you can't go up to a group of people and go like humana 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 and have them not know what you're talking about, get out of that circle of people.
Yeah, that and Goonie Goo Goo.
Goonie Goo Goo.
Goonie Goo Goo.
Goonie Goo Goo.
Bobby, I'm gonna have to get out of this circle because you guys, like, this is my short end here with comedians. The most stuff I do or have paid attention to with comedians is, I mean, really, remember the old Comedy Central shorts?
Oh yeah,
when it would just be like that was it. I never watched any stand up.
Oh,
I never listened to any stand up. I don't know. I'll catch it on Reels now, and that's honestly you can see with mine, like the shorts. I picked one from a short that I saw a million times in the 90s, and my other two are stuff that I found on Reels recently that absolutely knocked me out. I never got into it. I was always more into watching improv shows.
Oh, yeah. And sketch comedy, shit like that.
Improv and sketch were my game, and stand-up comedy, you know, it just, I don't know, it just passed. I even went to a few stand-up shows when I lived in Omaha, and it was fun. Yeah. But it was just a night out and something different. I never really latched onto it. Yeah. You know? It's a different form altogether. And I mean, if I'm being honest, like there is a part of me that wants to do stand-up so badly. Like, and every comedian that I know and I'm close with says the same thing. They're like, just do it. You're on the mic like 5-6 nights a week. Just do it. And I'm like, I don't have any material, man. And everything I write, I hate. So they're just like, just go and tell stories. Like that's just it. I would love to do it. I think that is the coolest shit. But I remember that Oh, good.
Delirious, like
Good.
that was the album for me. I was like, oh, this is great. And I saw Raw early on, like when it first came out, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. But something about that Delirious record was just so right on. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only comedy albums I've really listened to that were stand up was.
Yep.
I mean, there's obviously plenty of comedy albums out there that are sketch stuff.
Sure.
But really, Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer.
So
That's
good.
the only one I really have a lot of experience with.
Yep.
And that was because it was local.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well,
so sorry, I'm a disappointment, and I'm out of your circle now.
Although you have picked some great comedians, because this next one that we're going to hear is a name that I can remember first seeing this comic on the MTV half-hour comedy hour and being like, oh, this guy is funny as shit. In fact, he reminded me of some folks in my family a little bit. And it's the one and only John Panette.
Here's one of the stars of the Fox series Parker Lewis, John Panette.
I think I'm going to begin tonight with a lecture on world hunger. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. But there's people starving in the world. Do you know in Russia, they wait in line 5 hours for bread? Oh, that's when I get politically active. I'd be outside the Russian parliament building. Are you shitting me? Hey, Yeltsin, have you seen this friggin' line out here? Let me in, I want to make a sandwich. 5 hours in line for bread. This better be great fucking bread. I want to be walking around for a month going, did you have the bread? Oh, that's good bread. 5 hours in line for bread. I have two people in front of me at Safeway. I'm like, what's going on up there? Oh, she's got coupons. You bitch. Now write a check for $7. Go ahead. Why would you want to keep that much cash on you?
It's true.
5 hours in line for bread. How long's the line for the linguine and clam sauce? That's what I want to know. Got people been waiting a year for linguine and clam sauce over there. It's terrible. I did have a great meal the other day, though. You know, not to, like, bum the fucking Russians out or anything. I went out for his all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet. Yeah. Oh, it was great. Yeah. The owner was not happy. He'd come out every hour. You go now. You here 4 hours. Why you here 4 hours? You not come here anymore.
Oh man, it's ridiculous, man. Oh, John,
I picked that one for one reason.
What was that?
That became a dinner time line bit of slapstick in my parents' house for solid. Well, I mean, I saw that in high school, so the whole time I was there until I really left for the military. We had dinner, the bread, the rolls were out. You know, instead of saying, "Would you like some bread?" someone would just turn to you and go, "Did you have the bread?" With John Panette's accent every night, never failed. Did you have the bread? Some good bread.
No more chicken, no more beef. Water, white rice, cheap. Oh, God.
I love John Panette's performed a couple of times at a Western Mass staple comedy place that no longer exists, the good old Hukilau. And I'm pretty sure it was a sellout crowd every single time. Because you want to talk about like comedy that people can just truly relate to. Like he was special. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was funny as hell. I forgot he was on Parker Lewis. I forgot he was on that show in the 90s.
I didn't know he was on that either.
It's kind of crazy.
He had another bit about going to Florida in August.
Oh,
he was like,
yes.
"Oh yeah, let's go to Florida in August. Let's take the big man out and walk him. That's gonna be great."
It's not my cup of tea. That area, that time of year, no. John Panette and I have a few things in common. They're all horizontal.
Yeah, I feel you.
They're all horizontal.
I'm not watching my weight. I'm looking out over it.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So for our next one, this is the first one that I picked, and I couldn't put a list together without having some Louis C.K. on that list. I couldn't choose one, and I think Louis is probably one of the greatest that's ever like put pen to paper to write a joke. He is hilarious, and this piece here, I think you guys are really, really, really gonna love.
You ever flush a pet down the toilet? I had to flush my daughter's fish down the toilet. I came home, the fish was dead. She wasn't home from school yet, so I just flushed the fish. And that's a weird moment too, because fish live in water. So you put it in the toilet, floats to the bottom, like, yeah, he's dead. And then you flush and it looks like he goes, "Wait a second, oh, shit! I was taking a nap, Jesus! You gotta be in constant motion to get any respect in his house." And then my daughter comes home. "Why did he die, Dad? Come on, what am I gonna say? Why did he die? Because who gives a shit? That's the reason. That's the actual reason. Is because it didn't matter that he was alive. That's why he's dead. He didn't know his name and he didn't love you back. These are the facts about that fish's life." My daughter likes fish. We took her to the aquarium. I took both my kids to the aquarium in Boston, and we were looking at this seal or sea lion. I don't know which one. I don't care. I don't think they need to be separate things. I really don't. They don't care, and we don't care. There's like 3 scientists who give a shit what we call all those things. The scientists could go on TV tomorrow and say, "Okay, everybody, from now on, seals and sea lions and walruses, and you know what? Penguins are all seals now." And we would all be like, "Yeah, fine. Whatever, man." Anyway, so we're looking at this sea lion thing, and he's looking back at us through the plexiglass, and he's going, "Ugh." They're really disgusting in person. Most animals are when you really see them. You ever go to a farm, you think you're gonna see little white sheep going, "Bah," but they're all fat and shit colored and they're like, "Bah." Jesus. That thing is awful. Anyway, seals don't go, "Ooh, ooh," they go, "Ugh." My daughter's like, "What does he say?" "I don't know. I'm a slave. Kill me."
Oh my God. That was one that I felt comfortable sharing with you guys. Because Louis, when I saw him last weekend, even on his show, he was just like, "Man, I understand and I appreciate all you guys that are here because it is not easy to be a fan of mine. Like, I guarantee every single person in here right now has at least one single person that has no idea where they are right now. And it's better for it that way." Because he pushes the envelope big time. That was one of the ones where I was like, yeah, I'm not going to piss that many people off with that one. I think anytime he does jokes like about his kids and stuff, it is hilarious. And I like his parenting style, you know? Oh, God.
Well, I mean, I think it just illustrates the fact that kids ask questions and you just make answers up.
Yeah.
Like, there is no answer.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, the truth is, I don't care. But you can't
say that, of course, yeah. So you have to kind of, you know, paint a picture.
Dance around it.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, and that's why I feel like it's so, like, especially if you're a parent and you hear a joke like that, you can relate to it. And that's all anybody wants, is to be able to relate to another human being, you know? And when you're all laughing,
lets you know that you're not alone.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. I think that's a big, big deal. Oh my goodness. Loaded Potato just commented and he goes, I love his bit about him playing hide and seek with his kid. I remember that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like where he would just go and like take a nap or like whatever. Oh, like I said, I like his parenting style. I'm very, very into it. Well, this next one, and I think I was a little confused with this one, Bill, when you sent this over. Was it this comic that you didn't know who it was, Richard Jenny? Or was it the other guy, Ralph?
No. It was. I know Richard Jenny.
Oh, okay.
It was the other one. I was like, I have no idea what this guy is from, but this bit kills me.
It was solid gold. But this one here is from a comic named Richard Jenny, who had a spike in popularity in like that late 80s into the 90s. I feel like he might have hosted a show actually, and I can't remember what it was.
It was on Comedy Central. It was like Platypus Man or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And I mean, he's got some pretty good stuff. I like this bit that he does quite a bit. I enjoyed the hell out of this, and I think I edited this like ideally to fit right here. So here's Richard Jenny.
It's time for another decision of how to end the show. Now, how many people want the show to end with more political jokes? Okay. How many people want the cheap and disgusting sexual material? Thank God, because I don't have any more political jokes left. 12,000 crowds in a row. All right, true story. This really happened. I get a phone call and they go, would you like to perform your comedy act at the annual Pornographic Movie Awards in Las Vegas, Nevada? And I said, free. Yeah. No charge. Funniest show. You like comedy? Sneak into the Porno Awards. And you will be in a room with a bunch of people in tuxedos and gowns like this is some major thing. And there's a guy up front giving away the awards, the porno Toastmaster, giving away dirty movie awards like they're the Nobel Prize, saying, and I quote, the nominees for Best Anal-Themed Feature of 91. Splendor in the Ass 3, mind you. An American Buttman in London. And everybody in the room was, oh yes, excellent films they were, Bob. I was the only guy there going, come on. Why do you guys name X-rated movies, I told them. They're all the same plot. This should be the title of every X movie. Stuff that never happens to you. Starring people having a lot more fun than you. Every guy I know that watches the dirty movies gets depressed halfway through. They do. They're sitting there with the remote going, this is great, this is perfect, this is never gonna happen to me, is it? And then you look at the TV and you go, oh, no wonder I'm not in the porno movie. This man is built different. He has a penis bigger than some of the cars you've owned. Whereas you could fuck a Cheerio without breaking it. Let's be honest. He's a big man. A man with a giant schlong, whose job it is to have sex with a bunch of beautiful women and then get money. Well, let's go to the map. Find out where you fucked up in your career choice. A man with a giant schlong. You have sex with a bunch of different women, then you get money. Today's study question, are you ever late for that job? I don't think so. I think you're hopping to work. Hi-ho, hi-ho. It's off to work I go. My name is Rick, got a giant dick. Hi-ho, hi-ho. Ah, there's the studio double doors. Morning, everybody. How the hell are you? God, I love this job. Love it. What's that, Bill? Coffee? Fuck that. Let's get right to it. I can't wait to start work on this job. Excuse me. Seem to have bashed over some of the equipment with my rod of disaster.
Rod of disaster.
Of course, there's an announcer. Boy, that's gotta hurt, Bob. Look at that guy. Smacked over all the dishware and his penis. They're taping it up, but I think he's gone for the season. He's gone for the season, Bob. But men keep watching the dirty movies, no matter what. They do. They keep watching, man, because men love oral sex, and they have more head than a beauty shop on Saturday in those movies. Every 2 minutes, for no reason, women just see a guy and go, "What's your name, Jim?" "Well, I have no choice, do I?" Wrong. Men can't believe it, too, because men love oral sex. They will stop anything they're doing if there's the slightest possibility. Just go up to any guy, no matter what, and go, "Hey, want some oral sex?" And the guy, "Yes, let's go." "But you look busy." No, I was just doing some surgery. Fuck him. Come on. No matter what, even Neil Armstrong, the first guy who walked on the moon's surface, right? Pretty exciting thing. Even Neil would be, Neil was used to go get the moon rocks. He's up there in the spacesuit. "Hey, Neil, want some oral sex?" Neil, you're going the wrong way. So, thanks. Why is that?
Unfrickin' believable. Richard Jeni. I haven't even heard anything from Richard Jeni in a long time.
Well, there's a reason for that.
What happened? Is he dead?
He committed suicide.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, he did.
When?
10 years ago. Probably.
Really? Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it's been a while.
No kidding. Damn, Richard. What the fuck, Richard? What the fuck?
That whole special was really good.
Yeah, I had never seen that special, and that bit was pretty freaking funny. A lot of that stuff that was in there was definitely visual comedy. Like he was walking around with the mic stand, for a lot of it as
his rod of disaster.
The rod of disaster, yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, can we make that a thing this year for fishing? Like, elect like what is the rod of disaster? Maybe it's one that you broke a huge fish off on, or maybe it was your biggest fish of the year. Like, I think we need to bring that into the Jigs and Bigs nomenclature.
I have ideas. We'll talk about it.
I like this. Good.
I have ideas.
I like this. Okay, that's all we really need, really. And then we'll just keep going and get right through these. The next one is Taylor Tomlinson, which is our first. Is she the only? She's the only female comic that made the list. Now, the clip that Sean had sent me, I've seen her special. She is funny as hell. And this is relatively recent. I think this is within the last couple of years that this came out. It's from a Netflix special, I believe. So we'll check this out. This clip, or the name of this clip, is called Arm Floaties from Taylor Tomlinson.
I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it on stage, and then I needed new material, and I was like, fire sale, everything goes. No, truthfully, I was surprised that I felt so bad about it, because I think I'm pretty open-minded, and I don't think anybody should feel bad if they get diagnosed with a mental illness, because it's just information about you that helps you know how to take better care of yourself. Yeah. Being bipolar, there's nothing wrong with it. Being bipolar is like not knowing how to swim. It might be embarrassing to tell people, and it might be hard to take you certain places. But they have arm floaties. And if you just take your arm floaties, you can go wherever the hell you want. And I know some of you are like, but Taylor, what if people judge me for taking arm floaties? Well, those people don't care if you live or die. So maybe who cares? Maybe fuck those people a little. I don't know. That being said, you have to take your arm floaties. Because it's not cool to know you can't swim, go to the public pool anyway, and jump into the deep end, making it everyone else's problem. And you're thrashing around going, I'm good. They're like, you're literally drowning. And then someone nice and handsome jumps in to help you. And you're like, see, I'm fine. I can totally swim. And they're like, no, you're holding him underwater. You turned Kevin into an arm floaty. And that's not a fair relationship for Kevin. Then someone floats by you on their back, and you're like, what was that? And they're like, oh, that's someone whose parents supported them in the pool. until they could be trusted not to die. Here are your arm floaties.
I love it. I love it.
I picked that for a reason. When you have a comic who does a gig or has an act that not only is funny, but is equally scary and hits home.
Oh yeah.
That's the mark of a genius comic.
I agree.
So, I'm not going to say, we're not going to get too deep into it with mental health and stuff, but it hit me, it hit home with me enough that I said, that is not only funny, but it's also scary.
Sure.
And, enjoy what you will on that, folks. She was good. I like watching all her clips when they go by. Especially even some of the non-special stuff, because when she interacts with audiences, which she does apparently a lot, it is really good stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed that clip. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, her crowd work is really good, and she's young. I mean, I think she's in maybe her mid-20s, maybe something like that.
So that's 26, 27, something like that.
Something like that. Like I would say somewhere in that mid-20s, but and she's that younger generation of comic that's out there. It's kind of like it's definitely a different world to be in for sure. I mean, things have changed quite a bit, but I think she brings some really good stuff to the table. I've seen that Netflix special before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really, really good.
29 years old.
She's 29. Wow. I wouldn't have pegged her for that age.
I'm always really impressed. Mm-hmm. I'm always really impressed with comedians when they're working off script.
Yep.
Like when they're doing the crowd work, as you said.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, they are quick.
Oh yeah.
I mean, me and Sean make 12 different variations of the same dick and fart joke, every other minute.
Same.
But they're like on point with brand new stuff just off the top of their head. It's incredible to watch.
Yep.
So our next clip needs a little setup. I took this clip originally this story. So the comedian is Ben Bailey. Ben Bailey is the cash cab guy. He's a great stand-up, and he fits the role of stand-up that I really like, which is like the storyteller. I love like that comedic style where it's just these stories that kind of go, and there's bits within this sort of whole story that they cover. I love that. And Ben has this really great story, but I took this clip from Bert Kreischer's podcast. I think it's called Man Bear Pig, and it's a great show, and he was on my short list of comics to put on as well, because he's absolutely fantastic. And I was like, so this kind of kills two birds with one stone right here for me. But this Ben Bailey bit is one of my absolute favorites. I think it's hilarious, and it involves another pretty famous comedian as well, Louis Anderson. So let's go ahead and get into Ben Bailey.
Oh my God, one of my favorite Ben Bailey stories. What? I'm going to tell you the story, and then you just correct me if I'm not how accurate it is, because I've told other people this story.
Okay.
I've told other people this story.
All right.
You're working at the Comedy Store. Louis Anderson shows up. Do you know the story already?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Hey, you tell it, man.
I told it on the Urban Myth, and there's actually a better ending since then, because Louis has now heard me having told the story.
I don't know who I told this story to, but
it's a long story, dude.
Just tell it.
I'll tell a quick version.
Tell a quick version.
I'm a young. First we have to preface the whole thing. I'm like 18. It's Father's Day. My mother wakes me up, gets me out of bed, and says, "It's Father's Day. Go get your father a gift." Sends me to the mall. I'm roaming around the mall looking for a gift for my dad.
I told this story wrong.
Did you really? So I go to the mall. I'm looking for a gift for my dad. I see a big display in the bookstore. It's Father's Day. There's a big display. It says, "Dear Dad, letters to my father." A book by Louis Anderson. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll get this for my dad. I don't read anything about it. I have no idea what it's about. Just that it's here's a nice Father's Day book.
Yeah.
So I buy it for my dad. I give it to him. I never hear anything about it. Maybe a year goes by or something. I'm like, "You ever read that book?" And he's like, "Yeah, I started it." I'm like, "What'd you think of it?" He's like, "I didn't really know what to think." I'm like, Oh, okay. I still don't know anything about it. I haven't really paid attention to it.
Yeah.
But so then, like, flash forward several years, I'm out here in LA, and I'm just starting to do stand-up, and I'm hanging at the service bar at the store, and in comes Louis, and I'm excited. Like, he's a big-time fucking comedian, a hilarious, great comic, and I'm like, holy shit, it's Louis Anderson. And he starts talking to me. We start talking to each other, and then slowly I realize that I'm interested in Louis because he's this great comedian, but maybe he's interested in me for some other reason, you know? It's like, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but at some point it kind of became apparent that Louis kind of hitting on me.
Yeah.
And I realized that I've been so excited about sitting there talking with Louis fucking Anderson that I'm like leading the guy on and don't really realize it. So I say to him, I'm sorry, I maybe have given you the wrong idea. I didn't realize you were gay. And he says, he goes, haven't you read my book? I'm like, holy shit. I gotta go call my dad. I gotta go call my dad right now. I bought him your fucking book for Father's Day.
You read my book
like 8 years ago. So I think the
think about it. Have you read the book? You idiot. Yeah, I read it, Ben.
And then it gets even funnier because that book is not the book that he's talking about. The book that he's talking about is his newer book that he's released since that book.
Yeah.
In which he comes out and says that he's gay. In the previous book, which is the one that I bought for my dad, it's all about how his father was like, an abusive dad. And he was like just a horrible father. That's what I bought my dad for Father's Day. So I told this story on Urban Myth. Remember we used to do the storytelling night?
I fucked that story up so bad.
I'm curious about yours. But so wait, dude. So I told that story on Urban Myth, and we recorded it, and like you can watch it on Amazon or whatever. You can get it. I have more people calling me going, "Oh, that Louis Anderson story is fucking hilarious," and I'm always like, you know what? I was a little drunk that night. I don't remember exactly all the details. I hope I haven't fucking pissed Louis off or whatever. So,
yeah.
And that's just in my head, So then I'm in Montreal, like a year after I've told the story, or 6 months later, and I see Louis sitting there in the lobby of the hotel, and I'm like, oh, there's Louis Anderson. Maybe I should go and say hello and whatever. So I go over to him and I go, hey, Louis, I'm Ben Bailey. Do you remember me? And he goes, oh, I remember you. You're a great kisser. You just made a great story 10 times better because now I have a great fucking ending for it.
I needed a tag. Thanks, Louis.
Thanks, Louis.
I love that fucking story because the first time I saw it was on that Urban Myth that he's talking about. And I died. I died because he didn't realize that there were 2 books the first time he told the story. So he's like, Dad, I'm not gay. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, what the fuck are you talking about? This book that you gave me is about how Louis' father is just a terrible human being. Oh, God. Oh my God. I think Ben Bailey is one.
Dying on us, Bobby?
I think he's one of the most underrated comics that are out there. Like everybody knows him from Cash Cab, but like, wow. I mean, his stuff, I've seen him before in was it Bridgeport? Yeah, I think it was Bridgeport, Connecticut. I forget the name of the club, but I mean, he just killed. He was so good. And he's one of those comics that's like, he tells stories and he's got stories. I mean, obviously from like, doing comedy and stuff, but also doing like a game show like Cash Cab, where he's, especially that situation where he's working with the public, it's kind of nuts. But most people, when I tell them I'm a big fan of Ben Bailey, they're just like, oh, well, yeah, he's a game show host. That makes sense. I'm like, no. His comedy is just out of this world.
In that same vein, Bob Saget.
Bob Saget is fantastic. And I wrestled with putting him on this list too, but I was like, I understand the things that we say. I was just like, I don't know. There's so much good Saget material that's just out of this world. He's so fucking good.
Yeah, I found he was telling a story about Rodney Dangerfield.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a story, so it was in the same vein of that. And during this research, and I was crying watching that too. It was like 10 minutes long. I was like, well, that's a little long for this, but it was funny.
Yeah,
12 seconds of funny dude.
He really.
And I mean,
is.
I knew him from America's Home Video.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Videos or whatever.
Yep.
You know,
America's Home Videos, Full House. You know,
oh, right,
Danny Tanner. I mean, come on. And then to see his comedy is just. I remember the first time I saw any of his comedy, it was relatively clean stuff. Was on MTV, and I remember my buddy Tony, who was my neighbor. We were watching, like, I don't know if it was. Maybe he was on like the VMAs or something like that, or something that he had recorded. We watched it back, and he was doing this bit about being on a tour bus or on like some kind of like an animal, like a zoo tour somewhere in Florida. And there's a guy who's guiding the tour bus, and he's sitting on like this like bench seat kind of thing, and he's driving the group through the tour, and like he's got plumber's crack going on. His crack of his ass is just showing, and he's guiding the tour. He's got the radio on, and he's just like, oh, if you look over to the right, you'll see an American alligator there, such and such, blah, 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 blah. And then in his mind, he was just like, and he would just hear him say the crack of my butt constantly. So he'd be like, oh, that American alligator has a diet of such and such pounds or whatever, blah, 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 and a crack of my butt, and a crack of my butt, and a crack of my butt. And then he goes like just randomly, and this one line sticks to me. He's like, orange juice is coming out in the crack of my butt, crack of my butt, crack of my butt. Just like, I was like, this guy's a riot. So I did a little bit of homework on him, and I was like, oh, he's a dirty fucking comic. He's wicked dirty. He is not the guy he plays on TV.
No.
Yeah, we lost him way too early. That I think he was going on to really, really, really good things, man. Like I know, Bill, you had mentioned also like Robin Williams, like such a giant catalog of everything. I recommend anybody go out there and look up. I don't know if it's a Showtime or an HBO special that he did, like in the early 90s. That is absolutely hilarious. Like he's just got this table of bottles of water over there, and he is putting on a comedy show that is like, I mean, I'm sure he was all coked up at the time, but he is just on fire. Like the energy is out of this world. The physical comedy and everything, it is just hilarious.
Yep.
Mike Mariani chimes in here and says Saget had the best line in Half Baked too. Yeah, he did have the best line in Half Baked.
I don't recall it. What was it?
What was it? I think he said it was, have you ever sucked dick for pot?
Yeah.
I think that's what the line was.
When what's his name? Was it Chappelle? Who's in that?
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle was in it.
Yep.
Yeah, Chappelle was
Harlan
going to
Williams.
rehab for pot.
Yep.
Like, I'm here for pot. You ever suck dick for pot? Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Something like that.
Something like that. It's so fucking good. Oh my goodness.
Oh, man.
So we got two more to go. They're both yours, and these are a little bit quicker clips. This next one was Bill's third clip, and it was this is the one that you said you had never even heard about this guy previously, but this bit just killed you. And
I've seen the bit before.
Yeah.
I could never remember the guy's name though.
And the voice work that he does is so good here. Like, unbelievable. Let's go ahead and check it out. This is Ralph Harris.
I was a badass little kid. You know how some kids are so bad when they run around the house, you hope they bump their head just hard enough so they'll fall asleep for about 2 hours? I was like that. I remember one time my uncle came over our house. He had too much to drink. We had to let him stay overnight. He got up the next morning and let a Jehovah's Witness in our house. I ain't saying that they're bad people, but y'all know that's a long conversation. And it's always when you got somewhere to go, right? My father gave me and my sister the rules. He said, you let the man come in the house, you gotta sit down and talk to him out of respect. Not when the cartoon's on. I lost my mind. Oh no! Wait a minute! I'm gonna tell my daddy on you, Uncle. Hey, Dad, listen. Me and Murray was sitting on the couch watching Scooby-Doo. You know the one with Scooby and Shaggy be in the Hornet Castle and the ghost tap Scooby on the back and they drop all the Scooby snacks. They don't got no money to get no more, so they kissed him up to God to make the dirt roll off. Anyway, we were sitting there eating tricks up for kids. You know the one with the silly rabbit? I can't eat the green ones. They give me indigestion. Anyway, we didn't even have our feet on the new couch or nothing, because I know he didn't finish paying for it yet, right? Anyway, we were sitting there. Uncle Earl was downstairs playing your Al Green records all night. I think he broke one of them, but I ain't sure which one. I think it was Love and Happiness. Anyway, we were sitting there. Uncle Earl came upstairs. He walked in front of the TV. We couldn't see the man. Said, conjunction, what's your fun? sitting there, Uncle Earl went to the door, let Jehovah's Witness man, he downstairs right now looking through the refrigerator, but I ain't gonna tell, I ain't gonna tell you. My father freaked out. That damn Earl. I'll just send your mother down there to kick his ass. You tell that Earl I said he come over my house and let a Jehovah's Witness man in, he gotta sit his ass down and talk to him. You tell him, boy, because I gotta go. Let me tell y'all something. Anytime you give a hyper little kid a message like that to take back to an out-of-control adult with a curse word, give him grenades, too. I was way too happy. Okay, wait a minute. Uncle Earl, my daddy told me to tell you that if you come over our house and let a Jehovah's Witness man in, it's because you're illiterate, because you didn't go past the 2nd grade and you can't read a book by yourself. And you stink because you don't take a bath for 2 and 3 days at a time. And your wife kicked you out the house, that's why you living with us, eating one of your fair share of food, leaving chicken bones in the basement. Now we got roaches. We never had roaches before, and you can't pay for pest control because they don't take S&H green stamps. You need to put some gas in your car to take your lazy ass further than the block to get a job. And stop cutting your toenails in the bathroom, making us cut our feet when we go in there to brush our teeth. And you let a Jehovah's Witness man in, you gotta sit your smelly, stinking, illiterate, no gas in your car, big toenail ass down and talk to him.
It's so
Excellent.
good. It's so good. Like, just the voice and the timing is just absolutely perfect. I think that's a great bit right there.
Just the listen. If you're gonna give a kid a message to deliver with a swear word in it, just give him grenades.
Yep.
You know, just give him grenades too, because it's gonna go down.
Because it gave me indigestion. I can't have the green ones.
Indigestion.
I like how he goes, I don't know which one it was that he broke, but I think it was love and happiness. It's so fucking good. Oh my God. And you could see it too, like when you're watching the clip, like he was very cool and calculated with all of his movements on stage. And once he flipped the switch to go into that voice of the younger him, his energy entirely changed. He was all over that stage, pointing and shit. Oh, it was so goddamn good. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's get to our last one. The one and only Pete Holmes. And this is something that I think I saw this clip for the first time on like Instagram Reels. And I think for getting introduced to comedy, I think that TikTok and Instagram have really kind of become the go-to place for me to find new material and new bits, just to like really kind of fall in love with all types of different comics. And I think that's where this one came from here.
Nothing makes fucking sense. Life makes no sense. You're on a planet right now. You think you're in America? Zoom out. You're on a space rock floating in nothingness, infinite nothingness, and the infinite nothingness is expanding. That means endlessness is getting bigger. That makes no fucking sense. We all just act like it's normal. Like, oh, everything's made of molecules. Okay. Got it. I'll never think about that again. I'm made of molecules, you're made of molecules, the air between us, it's all made of molecules. That makes no fucking sense. These molecules know they're molecules. These molecules are like, oh, I'm Pete. That doesn't make any sense. This stool is made of molecules, the same molecules in my hand. In fact, some of the molecules in this stool went into me while I've been talking, and some that were me have gone into this stool. And you know, when I knock these molecules into these molecules, when we ask science why don't they go through each other, you know what the answer is? We don't know. That doesn't make any fucking sense!
I love that shit. It's so fucking good.
Again, makes you laugh, but makes you think, and all of a sudden it's real scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love the first sort of like turn there where he's like, you think we're on in America? You think we're on a planet? Zoom out.
We're a rock floating through nothingness. I love it.
Space rock.
Space rock.
Oh, it is so good. It is so good. Oh, so that's that. Those are our picks of the comedy bits that we wanted to share with you guys on this episode of Geekin' with Galekas. I think, you know what I would love to, I mean, there's so much out there for great comedy, whether you're on, looking at the local level of comics that perform routinely in your area, or, you're going to see a big headliner out in another city or something. Comedy is a great release of a lot of the bullshit people have to deal with day in and day out. And, it's nice to just go and get a laugh. It really, really is. I know, Sean, you'd mentioned that you hadn't seen any stand up that was necessarily something that was a huge thing for you necessarily. But Bill, have you seen any live stand up, and who was your favorite one to see live?
I'm kind of conflicted to admit this. I saw Cosby in Worcester.
Really? You saw Cosby, huh?
Yep.
No shot.
Cause.
How old were you?
I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
He played at I forget where he played. At Mechanics Hall, I think.
Oh, all right.
It was 100 degrees in that room, and we were just dying. And Cos had something to say. He just talked a lot that night, but it was funny.
Yeah.
He was good. I've seen Jeff Dunham, the guy with the ventriloquist,
the puppets. Yeah.
Doll.
Yep.
He's actually really funny too.
Yeah.
With the Cosby thing is, I've conflicted as hell because he ends up being a complete shitbag. But
oh, sure.
The comedy was funny. Unfortunately, was him being what he is now.
Yep.
That we know.
But you didn't know that then, so I mean,
no, right. It's kind of funny because you mentioned that about Louis C.K. and I'm kind of conflicted laughing at this because
exactly
of reasons.
Yep. And, but the thing is I think the big difference with like a guy like Cosby and Louis is that Cosby was a clean comic. Like,
yeah,
he was
America's dad.
Yeah. And with Louis, I can remember I love taking the perspective from my wife because it's a woman's opinion. But when the whole story with Louis broke and he effectively got canceled, I remember her saying I'm assuming these people that are calling him out for this shit don't realize who the fuck he is. Because his material should tell you that he's a scumbag. You know what I mean? Like, it really
doesn't make it okay.
I'm definitely not saying that it makes it necessarily okay. And at the time, we've had conversations about it, but I am saying it's like, you know what you're getting into. Like, you know what I mean? And then there's, I don't know. I mean, I think with Cosby, it was like the worst of the fucking worst. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have a completely non-scientific theory about people's brains, and there's only so much of a pie in your brain, and some of it goes to your morality and your ethics and like math and things like that. There's only so much of a pie to split up, and quote unquote normal people have normal slices. You get these people that are very talented in one thing, whether it be comedy or whether it be music or whether it be sports or whatever else. In that thing that they're so fantastic at, there's some other stuff that gets shrunk. That slice of the pie gets shrunk. And, sometimes it manifests itself in really unfortunate ways.
That's a good theory. I could definitely see that being at least a valid opinion. I think probably, one of my favorite comics that I've seen live was, for sure, Louis. I've seen him 4 times. Every time's been absolutely great. I think.
Indifferent?
Huh?
Indifferent. The issue I've had to see in comics more than once is that they recycle a lot of material.
Oh, I've seen Louis. So the only time I've ever seen him recycle anything was when I saw him on the same tour. I saw him one of the first few shows when he was at Foxwoods. Was it Foxwoods? Yeah, it was at Foxwoods. And it was a good show. And then my wife and I had gotten tickets, and we had gone out with my buddy Paul and his wife when he stopped in Springfield and played at the Mass Mutual, the Mass Mutual Center. And we saw him there. And what was nice was, the material was the same, but it had been worked out so well that it was a better show there. And then I've seen him. I saw him 3 days before everything got shut down. Like 3 days before everything got shut down when the pandemic started. We saw him, and this was like, because, he had basically moved to Europe and was just like, because I got to get out of the country, obviously, it's getting bad. He came back and was starting to try to piece together like his career, and he did a show that was probably one of the favorites that I've ever seen. It was that first one back. And it was where, he had like he was in a good spot. It was just shitty that the world shut down. He was like about to kick off this tour and all this other stuff, and had to put that all on hold. And then I saw him. There was twice afterwards. We saw him at the Orpheum Theater in Boston. So actually, I think I saw him 5 times now, and my wife saw him 4. So we saw him at the Orpheum, and that was front row. That was an amazing show, and it was really great. I mean, the whole night was awesome. Madison Square Garden was something totally different, though. It was absolutely out of this world. Like I really like it when Louis gets really, really dark, and he did. It was really, really good. Like there was a lot of religious shit that he got into that was really like comics are controversial, but I also like comics like Mark Maron. Big J Okerson is another one that I really like. Who is this in here? He goes, Chrissy goes, that skit about drunk girls are like from Chris D'Elia. Makes me laugh every time. He's another funny son of a bitch, too. Chris D'Elia.
I'm not familiar with him. I'm to look that one up.
He is, I'll tell you what, he's really good. He has some really good voices that are pretty dynamite as well. He's funny as hell. I think, who else have I seen that was just really, really, Aziz Ansari. Another one that got canceled for a little while. And I saw him on his return back to stand-up, and it was really, really fantastic. He's a funny dude, He
was on Parks and Rec?
He was on Parks and Rec, yeah.
Okay.
And
I've never seen any of his stand-up, though.
Yeah, it's really good. Like I've seen a couple of his specials. Like I think he's done, I think it was a Netflix special, like 2015 maybe, something like that. And it was great. He's got a great style. Like it's just he's a funny guy. And then he had that whole controversy had come out with him. Like he had some accusations from a girl that he had gone out with or something, and then he sort of disappeared for a little bit. And he came out and started doing shows again. And it was just like you could tell that his material had changed with the time. Like he had gone through some shit and he definitely made some jokes about it. But it was just the delivery was really, really fantastic. It's actually kind of funny, Sean, because we had really good seats. This was at Symphony Hall in Springfield, and sitting they are either right next to us or right behind us was Joe and Tasha from Joe Mama. and at that show, somebody in the balcony had like dumped a half-drank beer, and it landed all over me. I was like, you motherfucker.
Oh my God.
Animals. Springfield.
Man.
Yeah, there's some
we didn't even get into so many classic bits tonight. I mean,
there's so much shit we could have gotten into.
Larry Miller's 5 Stages of Drinking. Jim Brewer. Brewer with the booze drinks. Oh God, some of those just.
I mean, Mitch Hedberg, Lenny Bruce. But I wrestled with Patrice too.
Bill Hicks.
Patrice O'Neill. Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Who's the guy? Is it Ron White?
Oh my God, Ron White.
The drunken public.
Yes.
Bit. Oh God, that killed me. I don't know how many bounces it's going to take to kick my ass, but I knew how many they were going to use. That was a good piece of information to have.
The Unknown Comic.
Oh, the Unknown Comic.
Shut your dirty mouth.
Shut your dirty mouth. Oh my goodness. That was awesome, man. Yeah, the show. Oh, Mike Mariani's talking about that show in Springfield. It was seeing that. It was interesting very much to see it before, early on in the tour, and then afterwards. And I mean, there's some you know, we're lucky in our local area that we do have some good outlets for comedy. There's some really good local comments too. Steve Vecchiarelli, if you're not familiar with Steve, he is. If you like the comedy, like the Louis C.K. stuff and the Ben Bailey stuff that I played, you will like Steve. He is great. There's I've had a couple of times. I've actually had tickets where it never worked out to go and see Artie Lang. Artie Lang's stand up is really great too.
He played the Hookie Lau a lot and used to rip on it on the Stern Show.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yep.
There's plenty of fodder
Hookie
there.
Lau and Chico P. He used to say that shit. Yeah, I got a great weekend planned. I'll be at the Hookie Lau and Chico P.
Oh,
Thanks.
Man. Freaking unbelievable. You guys got anything else you want to throw in here?
No.
I'm good.
I have to go
exhausted.
take some sort of a cleansing shower now to get the bacteria off my body for this surgery. So we go into another commercial and wrap it up. We're going to wrap up right now.
We're going to wrap it up right now, guys. We did our 2 breaks, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, guys. Appreciate you for checking out this show and sticking with us for another episode of Jigs and Bigs. We're in February now. That means that the countdown is on. We can start looking forward to getting into the spring, into the season of open water fishing. I just got a message from from somebody on Facebook regarding ice conditions. There was Alec Plotnikevich was actually asking about getting out on safe ice locally. He had looked around his area locally and said they came up kind of fruitless. I made the suggestion to just head up the shears. You can't go wrong. And then we had another person jump in and chime in with a number of areas that do have safe ice up the shears. So, you know, if you want to get out there and get on the ice, you can absolutely go and do that. Head west and you'll run into some safe ice. So
Head west, young man.
Head west, young man. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up, guys. On behalf of myself, we got Bill Galekis with us, and of course, Sean the Fisherman. Appreciate you guys for listening. We will see you next time. Remember, do us a favor and throw us a review on Apple Podcasts if you listen over there. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and give us a star rating as well. We totally would appreciate that. If you think you have any friends that might enjoy this brand of content that we have for you, go ahead and send them our way to Jigs and Bigs. And if you would like to become a jighead, of course, jigsandbigs.com is the place to do so. Until we see it next time, guys, have yourself a great week. And as always,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.